All right, folks, we're going to get started. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Law, and wish to state that on March the 21st, 2014, the notice of this meeting of the Upper Township Committee was posted on the official Township Bulletin Board, mailed to the Cape May County Gazette, the Atlantic City Press, the Ocean City Sentinel-Ledger, the Herald Times, and filed with the Township Clerk. Tonight's meeting is being video recorded and up until the closed session portion of the meeting, and will be available on UTTV Channel 97 and on the Upper Township website. I hereby direct that this announcement made a part of the minutes of this meeting. We would ask all to rise for the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Barbara, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr? Here. Mr. Coggins?
Here.
Mr. Sarah?
Here.
Mr. Young?
Here.
Mayor Colombo?
Here.
All members are present.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes from March 10th, the regular meeting, and also the closed session minutes?
So moved. Second.
Any corrections, omissions, deletions that anyone's aware of? Okay, hearing none. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Sarah? Yes. Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Colombo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Okay, at this time we'll move on. Barbara, do you have anything for us this evening?
I have nothing to report this evening, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Daniel?
Yes, we received earlier this month from the an advisory from the New Jersey League of Municipalities, and it was regarding some legislation that's pending with respect to the energy receipts tax. It's similar to the legislation that was not adopted last year. It would reinstate the cuts that we've incurred over the last 10 or so years for the next 5 years. It's an uphill battle to have that legislation adopted, but the League has asked those municipalities that are significantly impacted to pass a resolution and urge your legislators to move forward with that legislation. So I would suggest that unless anyone on the committee has a different approach, that we at least put a resolution similar to what we did last year on the agenda for action at the next meeting.
Do you need a motion to do that? Or just...
That'd be fine. I've always voted the motion, but the actual resolution will come next week, meeting.
Okay, motion to allow Dan to draft a resolution that will support reinstating the amount of cuts that we've experienced over the years from the energy receipt tax.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Sarah?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Colombo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
And then there are a number of items for closed session. There's 5 contract negotiation items, a potential litigation matter, and some safety, security, and personnel issues.
Okay. Paul?
Thank you. I just had to report on one item, was that the paving project did start over the last week and a half, and they'll be continuing to work probably through the middle of May, towards the end of May. They should be done.
Is there any particular area that they're working in, or it's up to the contractor?
They're starting in Palermo and kind of working from Palermo to Seaville to Marmora and then out to Petersburg. But at this point, they have several crews working in almost all 3 neighborhoods at this point.
And they're letting the residents know when they're going to be working in their area?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Are we publicizing that on the...
I did have one slide on Channel 2, and I'm going to try to update it.
Let's not say Channel 2 anymore.
I mean, 97, I'm sorry. Channel 97.
If you say Channel 2, then people are going to see the movies or whatever it's on there now, so it's 97.
Right now, they're just doing scattered base repairs and some concrete work, but once they really start doing the milling and paving operations, which that's really what impacts, which blocks the streets, I'll get more active in trying to keep a schedule ahead of, hey, this is what street they're working on and this is what street they're heading towards.
Sounds great.
That's all I had for this evening.
Okay. Barbara?
Just one reminder that we have a blood drive on Wednesday, the 26th, at the community center from 2 to 7. So, anyone that can give blood, we would welcome it. That's all.
Okay. Mr. Coggins?
Nothing new other than we will be looking at making an additional adjustment to the temporary portion of the budget tonight. It will not affect the budget over the 12-month period. Some out-of-period expenses that occurred relating to the water issue at Township Hall, to the additional overtime that's being paid out for the most recent snowstorm and very possibly the snowstorm that's predicted for tomorrow. The repairs to City Hall, we have applied to the insurance company. So chances are that it's very likely that that's going to be reimbursed. It was a very complete
And
package.
did we do both the heating system as well as the well, or did we?
Yes,
Good.
that's all I have.
Mr. Young?
As far as the worst problem we have at the township, pleased to finally say that we passed the Board of Health, clean colors. We have potable water now, and it's been a while coming up. We finally took care of all the problems. And we read that John got the application for the damages into the JIP program. Hopefully we can recover some of that cost. The refreshment stand at Amanda's Field was broken into about 2 weeks ago. Not excessive damage, but made a mess out of it. We are in the process now of securing the steel doors on the overheads and also building more secure doors on the actual refreshment stand where they open up before service. I've also met with the baseball committee. I sat with them. We had a very nice meeting as far as where we're heading and where they wish to head with Amanda's Field and the future of baseball. A few of them are here tonight, and I'm sure they're going to want to speak as far as the necessity of the lights they can add to their program, as far as the extent of their program, the growth of their program. And I just thought it prudent for them to be here to give us real solid facts on why we require the extra lights. Other than that, we've been moving along. Mike's been doing a great job on repairs for me, and I appreciate it. Fields, we're trying to get on to get them ready for baseball, but unfortunately due to all this weather we've had, many of the baseball fields you walk on and you're up to your ankles in mud. So as soon as they dry, we're going to get back on them and hopefully be ready, and if the weather cooperates with us for opening day. But I appreciate baseball working with us on this. It's something that's out of our hands. Talk with this now or later.
I think it's an agenda item for the turf. Yeah, for the Color Park, that's on the agenda item.
It's on the agenda, I will wait for that. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Insera?
The trash containers are being deployed, and they're actually started collection already. There's a little hang-ups in it, but we'll get to it eventually. The people that requested extra cans, they're coming, not yet, and I noticed that there was a mix-up with the size that we're working on it first. Once that is achieved, we'll move on to the distribution of the extra cans to the residents. Other than that, it's moving pretty on.
Yeah, and I would really like to compliment our Public Works crew for doing an outstanding first week job. I mean, for starting a new system and having relatively minor problems, I think to be commended. I still noticed today there's for trash tomorrow. I live in Beasley's Point on Tuesday, and you know some of the folks are still putting the recyclable and regular trash cans together. Obviously, that doesn't work because the arm needs to get between it. So I'll publicly ask, and we are doing ads, I believe, in both newspapers, that folks separate the cans by 3 feet because it'll make it a lot easier for the pickup. But the crew did a great job for the start of a new system, so I think to be congratulated.
Actually, I've had 3 or 4 phone calls last night around 9:30, 10 o'clock, congratulating Public Works on that job.
Yep.
Yeah, I have to agree with that, especially since we had to deal with the recyclables of St. Patrick's Day and 6 inches of snow.
That took some time to
Green
follow.
beer and white snow, everything worked out.
It took a little bit of time to follow one of the trucks around this weekend. The operator of the truck was doing a splendid job, especially for somebody that has not had several months of experience doing this. I think they're doing tremendously well.
I mean, we always felt there was going to be some hiccups and, going through the system.
Just be patient, we'll get to it, we'll sort it all out.
Good. Anything else? Mr. Barr?
Pretty quiet with the public safety. I'm going to report on our safety committee and our closed session. Bring everybody up to speed as far as what we're going to be doing here in Town Hall. Also, just like to bring to the attention to the public and to my fellow committee members, when he's not out there representing the township and signing autographs, just like to bring it to the attention that our mayor, Rich Palumbo, was just recently appointed for the Board of Pharmacy by our governor, and it's going to be a 5-year term. Apparently, it's not his first go-around, is it, Mayor?
No, I've already served 16 years on the Board of Pharmacy. So.
16 years, and then 3 different governors appointed him, so he's a pretty popular guy. And he also served on the National Association of Board of Pharmacists, that pretty much covers the United States through from 2004 to 2010. So, I'm honored to work with you, Mayor, and obviously, by these appointments, it shows that you're very well respected, not only in the public sector, but the private sector, in the field of work that you're in, and it's a testament to your leadership there. So I thank you for your service.
Thank you. I have a few things to do tonight. First, I would like to appoint Cynthia Harrison to the Planning Board. She will replace the untimely death of Renee Scrocca, that left our Planning Board Team 1 short. And Cynthia has quite a unique resume. She's an RN, she has a BSN, she has an MBA. I think that her work experience and her professional experience will be a great addition to the Planning Board. So, Dan, I'm not sure if we have to vote on that, or is it just the mayor's appointment? Okay. So, I congratulate Cynthia and look forward to her working with the Planning Board. Also, I had a meeting on Thursday with our new OEM director, which will be formalizing a resolution to come later in the meeting. But Scott Morgan has agreed to take on the position. He and I had some real good conversation on how we can continue to expand the shared opportunities that we have with Ocean City. One of the areas that we thought would really be an asset is to expand the volunteer CERT program that Ocean City has. When we had evacuees here at our shelter in Upper Township, the Ocean City CERT volunteers did a great job assisting our rescue squad in helping to take care of the evacuees that we had, over 100 of them in our shelter during Hurricane Sandy, and also we had evacuees during Hurricane Irene as well. They set up shelters in anticipation of that storm. So I look forward to working with him in expanding our OEM program. The first thing we're going to do with the OEM program, we've actually worked on putting together a little document that talks about our new system. It's called the Code Red system. It's going to replace our 911, reverse 911 that we had in place, where we're able to communicate with our residents. This has the capabilities of expansion, so that it could tie in fire and rescue. And these will be available. We'll make sure that the public has an opportunity to get these, because it's something that will be good to keep in everyone's household. We had a meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers on Friday. Dan, I, and Paul attended it to talk about the beach replenishment in Strathmere. That particular process is moving forward. The Army Corps intimated to us that it's going to take 3 to 4 months to get to the bid process. Right now we're going through some permitting issues, and also to make sure that all the funding is secured. After the bidding process takes place, it'll be approximately 3 months before we'll start seeing the staging and the opportunity for the beach replenishment over in Strathmere. That is the Ludlam Island project that will be fully funded this first go-round. So Sea Isle, Strathmere, and the south end of Ocean City will get massive amount of sands put on the beach. They estimate it'll be a 1.5-year project. So it's more than what we have ever done in Strathmere. And so stay tuned, probably starting sometime in the fall. We'll be seeing a huge project that will take a year and a half to complete. We're not sure, the Army Corps wasn't sure exactly which town it'll start with, whether they're going to start at the south end of Ocean City and move northward, or the opposite end, or for that matter, start on the actual Ludlam Island, which would be Strathmere heading south to Sea Isle, and then go back to Ocean City. Because one of the areas of concern for those of us that take care of Strathmere is that we have nesting birds there in the summer, in the spring, and they won't do any beach replenishment while that's taking place. But they do plan on doing a beach replenishment through the winter, so we should anticipate seeing that large project get started sometime in late fall of this year. There was also a press conference here that I attended, Mr. Young, Mr. Barr, and that was Friday morning. And that was with our Assemblyman Fiocchi, and he has thrown his support behind the gas pipeline to Beale England. He joins the other two legislators, Senator Van Drew and Assemblyman Andrzejak, as well as the freeholders in this committee in working towards trying to get that gas pipeline project back in place, back on track, so that they can change the coal and oil generators at Beale England to natural gas burning and ensure that that facility will be in place for the next 25 years. It has huge ramifications on this township from a tax standpoint, and it's not something that we look to not put up a huge fight for. It's a high priority of this committee, and we'll continue to work with in any capacity we can to ensure that that gas pipeline project gets back on track. Other than that, I think I'm good. So let's move on with the agenda. Barbara, I'll turn it over to you if you wouldn't mind to guide us through the resolutions.
Okay. Item number 1, pledge supporting New Jersey Wildlife Action Plan.
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
Any discussion on this? Paul, I know that this is something we're using for our green team.
Yes, the component of, for New Jersey, Sustainable Jersey, and our certification, and it essentially just discusses that, the committee's pledging the support for the planning board and zoning board whenever they're, reviewing the master plan re-examination to look at some of the critical habitat areas and, wherever they can to support the Wildlife Action Plan and their initiatives as they coincide and coordinate with our master plan.
Okay? If there's not any other discussion, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Item number 2, authorizing the mayor to sign and submit an application for recreation development to the Cape May County Open Space Program.
Move the resolution.
What is this?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll second it for discussion. Go ahead.
Tim, what is the building?
It's a similar grant that we just got for Amanda's Field. I'll kind of defer to Paul. He's been working on this to explain what it is.
In talking, met with Dwayne Toler, one of the recreation supervisors, and kind of looking at, they had another round of recreational funding from the county. So instead of not making any application, we kind of looked at some of the larger projects that we may have to do from a capital side. And one of the things that we had looked at a couple years ago was the baseball bleachers at Caldwell Park. I mean, not baseball, the football bleachers at Caldwell Park. We're starting to get in disrepair, and also the press box is in dire need of replacement. The problem with the press box is, the way they built it, it was to accommodate, where its location is with the baseball complex, and if baseball moves, that kind of allows for the reconfiguration of that, but the bleachers do need to be replaced, as well as a better ADA access ramp from the parking area down to the field. And then to round out the project, we looked at, as Hobie had mentioned, spring weather and fall weather with the rain and everything makes field usage very difficult in these transition seasons with the water on the fields and not being able to use them, or when they do get used in a wet condition, they get tore up and then not be able to be in prime condition, and they cost more to replace. So we had looked at asking and requesting for a multi-use artificial field to replace the grass turf field that would be able to be used by not only football, but lacrosse, soccer, and the Challenger Sports Program, which has had a very difficult time in utilizing the natural surfaces, and the weather with them really interfere with their program with having wheelchair access or out on the, especially the baseball fields.
And soccer, yeah, you play soccer on that, so.
So that'd be a comprehensive application for about $961,000 grant request.
This is to seek funds from the county to do this work?
Yes.
Paul, is this something that if the county either approved it or denied it, they would do it in its entirety, or would they do this in portions?
They may give us funds in portion.
Okay, so they may eliminate, okay, I got you.
Yeah, depending on their grant round, they may have a first round of grants and give us some dollars, or they may give us all of the dollars, or push it to another round.
If we can do this, it enables us to make more of a stadium program out of Caldwell, which would enable lacrosse, soccer, girls soccer, football, to extend the hours of play there, especially if we get baseball into a managed field. And with the upkeep on the field, with the wear and tear that it has right now, is pretty excessive. So the long-term goal of this is the savings and upkeep on the field, and also increasing the hours of utilization for that field.
And that would be potentially multi-purpose.
It would be a multi-purpose.
Because, I mean, I have met with Mr. Detroit in the past for the Challenger program, and that, for those who don't know, the Challenger program is an opportunity to help our physically impaired children to actively be involved with sports, and they really have difficulty maneuvering on grass fields, but it's really been something that we haven't been able to work out because of the expense to do a field like that. So if some grants could be potentially available, that would certainly go a long way to helping that program as well.
So this will allow you to ask the county for a grant?
Correct.
Any other discussion? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr? Yes. Mr. Calkins?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Colombo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 3, appointing Scott Morgan as the Municipal Emergency Management Coordinator, 911 Coordinator, and Right to Know Director for the Township of Upper.
Move the resolution.
Second.
And, if I can just, give Scott a compliment. We are very fortunate to have Scott become our new OEM Emergency Management Coordinator. Scott comes with a vast experience in emergency management. He's a former policeman in Ocean City, was a deputy OEM over in Ocean City, dealt with a lot of the recent storms, has great networking and contacts not only locally in the county but also in the state. So his background will be an asset to the township. He lives in the township, so we're looking forward to bringing him on board and working with our local fire and rescue and really the entire team we have in place to keep us better prepared and ready, and hopefully that storm won't come, but in the event it does, we'll be prepared. So, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Calkins?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Colombo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
And by the way, I believe Scott's here, so would you like to stand up? We'll say hello. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Item number 4, authorizing the Greater Tuckahoe Area Merchants Association 5th Annual Tour de Tuckahoe Bike Ride and 4th Annual Duathlon to be held at the Amanda's Field in Petersburg, New Jersey on Sunday, May 4th, 2014.
Move approved.
Second.
Yep, this looks like quite an event. They're actually going to have a 16-mile, a 40-mile, and a 62-mile course. Ed, are you going to be doing a 62-mile?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, okay. Just checking. Let's call the roll, please.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Colombo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Toby and I are going to do the 1-miler. We're going to
I
walk.
don't know if I'm going to ride, I think it's wrong.
We'll do the tricycle.
Item number 5, A resolution congratulating the Upper Township Girls Varsity Travel Basketball Team on becoming the 2014 Optimist Basketball Tournament champions.
I'll move that resolution. And these girls have represented Upper Township well. In fact, I had the great opportunity to go to many of these games because my niece is on the team, but Kara French, Allie Hanley, Savannah Holt, Olivia Kirby, Brianna Laverty, Alana Palumbo, Tori Rolls, Amanda Schmid, and Kylie Wires have done a great job, and we'll present them with the resolutions at a later meeting, but they represented us well and had a great season. So would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 6, adopting revisions to the Township of Upper purchasing policy.
Move the resolution.
Second.
And Barbara, you want to just give us an update on this?
This is just to update our policy. The following resolution kind of explains it a little more. We're asking you to authorize participation in a federal surplus property program that will allow the municipality to obtain property through the federal government at no cost to us, other than maintaining and insuring the equipment and storing it. So this policy changes our policy just to give us some guidelines on how we accept the property, the donations.
Just to review it, what happens is we'll have certain individuals that will identify potential pieces of equipment that are surplus from the government, federal government, that they don't need anymore, and then that'll come back to the township committee. Do you want to formally accept that? And then they'll have the authority, after you do a resolution formally accepting it, to identify that and obtain it from the federal government. And this sets forth the policy, because we have to check, can public works store it? Is it something we can insure? Is there a safety issue with it? And this produces that policy.
And we feel that there's, and speaking with Scott, there's a great opportunity for some of that surplus materials that come back, from things that are coming back from Afghanistan and those areas. So, I mean, in these, we're talking about like tow trucks and dump trucks and things that we might normally purchase. They might be available to us free of charge. And that's something that we're certainly going to pursue as well in an effort to try and keep our costs down. So, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 7, authorizing the mayor to sign and submit a federal surplus property program application for eligibility by public agency.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Any discussion? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 8, authorizing the mayor to execute deeds of dedication and perpetual storm damage reduction easements on behalf of the Township of Upper for the following properties known as Block 839, Lot 13.01, Block 845, Lot 15.03, Block 858, Lot 1.06, on the official tax map of the Township of Upper for the Grade A Harbor Inlet to Townsend's Inlet, New Jersey Beach Replenishment Project.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Dan, you want to just explain that briefly?
Yes, this is, these are requested by the Army Corps. 2 of the easements actually already exist, and Paul had discussed with representatives from the Army Corps, and they thought the best way to do it was just to restate it. What happened was the original easements were identified lots that had been subsequently merged into other lots, so that lot numbers didn't reflect it. The 2 of these easements, the second 2 that are listed there, actually recite that transaction so that it makes sense. And again, these are all easements or lots, easements on lots that the township owns. The third one was one that was just oversight. They're all beach lots. And it's something that the Army Corps picked up and said, by the way, Township, you have this lot as well. We'd like an easement on that one. It's on the beach. So.
Okay. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 9, revised temporary.
John? Would you like to make a motion on
Move
that?
the resolution.
Second.
Okay, and I don't know if you want to add to what you had said earlier, anything you want to add before we call the roll on it?
So this will be a resolution to move some money around within the 2014 budget. It's going to cover some out-of-period expenses. It's not going to change the overall total in the budget. It's just moving expense items from a later period up to a more recent period.
Okay. Let's call the roll, please.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mr. Sarah?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 10, under ordinances, public hearing and final adoption of ordinance number 2, 2014, an ordinance vacating Adams Avenue adjacent to block 417 through 424 within the Township of Upper County of Cape May, state of New Jersey.
Okay. Before I open it up to the public to see if anyone would like to comment on this public hearing, is there any questions that the Township Committee has?
Yeah, is this the street pole that on occasion the fire department use it as a detour?
No, this is, this road this is an unimproved road that parallels that Woods Road that you start out from Route 50 and you go down Bailey Road. If you kind of went to the Woods Road makes a right and then another left and then goes out to Mount Pleasant Tucker Road. This unimproved road would be to the left of that and parallels that. Does not interfere or cross over any portion of that Woods Road.
Okay. Do you have anything to add to this, Dan, before I
No.
open it up? Okay, is there anyone in the public that's here to address ordinance number 2, 2014? Hearing silence and no one commenting, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and entertain a motion for adoption. Someone like to make a motion to adopt?
Second.
Okay. Let's call the roll, please.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Sarah?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 11, public hearing and final adoption of ordinance number 5, 2014, amending the revised general ordinance, chapter 24, solid waste and recyclables of the Code of Upper Township.
Oh, no, this is a public hearing.
I'm sorry.
Does anybody have a comment or anything? Dan, this is just to bring us up to speed with our new...
This amends our code to reflect the automated trash system.
All right, so I'll open it up again if anyone from the public would like to comment on ordinance number 5, 2014. And again, it appears that there's no public comment, so I'll close the public hearing portion and entertain a motion for adoption. Okay, let's call the roll, please.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Sarah?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 12, we have another resolution amending the 2014 solid waste and recyclables collection rules and regulations and resident information packet pursuant to Chapter 24 of the revised general ordinances of Upper Township.
Second. Is there any discussion? This really just kind of follows the ordinance, so. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Sarah?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 13, under correspondence, Upper Township Construction Official request to increase permit fees.
Okay, I think this should,
Yeah, we used the fees last year on this.
we raised the fees, I believe, by 15%. What was the amount last year?
10%.
Was it 10%?
It was 10%.
Barbara?
15.
50, what? Yeah, what? I have a good memory there, I hope.
Yeah, I wasn't on the board.
All right, so we raised it last year 15%, and that's not something that we like to continue to do. There's been a request to raise the fees to cover the expenses. And Dan, is that something that is required by statute?
It's not required. The statute allows you to raise the fees so it's self-sustaining, and obviously in slower times, you still have the payroll that you have, so therefore, the fees would go up based upon the volume. The recommendation from code enforcement is we have a 35.7% shortfall, and he's proposing a 36% fee increase to make up that shortfall.
We've been down this path before, and the first year I was here, we were the same thing. He also says money year after year. I think it's time to look at this seriously and shut it down and move to the PCA. Yes, we can't control this. There's the fees and there's all this money. I mean, this is about the third year now we're talking about this. Last year we raised the fees to make up what we lost, we still haven't made it up. Now we're going to raise the fees again. I don't think it's a viable tournament.
Well,
it's not enough like to substantiate that.
Let's just say that's a separate discussion, and I'm not opposed to what you're suggesting, but I think what we need to do, our task tonight, is to respond to the correspondence. And I'm not going to speak for anyone, because I'd like to ask, the other committee's opinion, but I kind of agree that I'm not looking to increase any fees as well. And so, but that doesn't mean that, there's only two of us that have said that so far. So I'll ask anybody else how they feel about it.
Well, personally, I think what we ought to do is we ought to do a little bit of research and find out what options are available to us before we continue to raise fees. Obviously, if we've raised fees on 2 other occasions, or perhaps more, and we're still not keeping up with, the costs, we may need to look at other options. So I don't know that I would be prepared to vote on raising these fees this evening.
Thank you.
I think we also need to compare ourselves to other municipalities. I mean, are we in step with what other municipalities are charging as far as fee basis? Are we behind? Because we've talked about this before with other fees throughout the township. We have to look at our fee schedule and see if we're up to date. I mean, there's a price of operating government, and we may have to look at across the board what all of our fees are, not just for building and code.
We have actually the conversation was to raise the fees and do that.
But that was still, what was the amount that he had asked for last year?
40. Yeah, it was 20 something. But it was 25, it was 15.
But no matter what happens, I mean, whether we have our own code enforcement office or a state agency comes in, there's still going to be fees, no matter what. So, I mean, I would suggest that we have to look at our fee schedule and bring it into line with the other municipalities.
I believe that the fees charged now will be more than adequate if this year comes in.
Well, unless you have the document, I mean, I'm not saying that's not true. I don't know that. I don't have that at my fingertips, so we don't have the data. So, maybe what I might suggest is that we table this discussion, re-agendize it for the next meeting, and in the meantime, let's get some fee schedules for some other towns. Let's get, and I'm not sure how we would start the process, but look at what other options are out there.
What about?
Because we haven't talked about even a shared service with another adjoining town either. And that has benefited us with our courts and our 911 dispatch and a lot of other things. And may even make sense to contact our colleagues in Dennis and see what their needs are, and maybe we can look at that as well. That might be another option to look at from a shared service standpoint, where the fees and the expenditures are shared by both towns. So,
Dan, do you know if the DCA sets the limits on fees, or is it?
There's a statute that allows you to do a calculation, and the calculation is self-sustaining. In other words,
right.
Whatever you runs.
In that, we also have to look at the hours required if our permits are down by 50%. You can't raise the fees to punish, to make everybody else.
The statute, I believe, I'll check it, but the statute allows you to raise it to pursuant to your costs. Now, there might be limits on that. I don't know off the top of my head what those might be, but I'd have to look at it. Okay. The other question that I...
The DCA, as Michael always said, we could all look at the national.
Who sets the maximum fee?
Joint services, so that might be not the problem.
Yeah, I mean,
the other question I have in your suggestion, are you suggesting, there was a comment by Mr. Barr about all of our fees, we've talked about this at prior meetings, are we going to look at all of our municipal fees at the same time to see whether they should be looked at and or adjusted?
I'll tell you what, right now I'd like to concentrate on this one.
Yes.
And then, depending on the outcome of that, that may certainly lead to us to look at some other areas.
It's been quite some time since we've adjusted our fee ordinance, and we know from some of the prior discussions earlier in the year that some of our fees are significantly lower than most all other municipalities.
Again, that was in our land use and those issues. You know, when we do this, we also want to look into the fact of what the average permit is now costing the residents for COA. I know a friend of mine just bought a home down in Seagull. His COA payment was $6,000.
That's, unfortunately, that's set by ordinance and regulated by the state. There's not a whole lot you can do about that.
I mean, you know, I think we have to look at every avenue we can to keep some of the costs down. Because if not, it becomes an enforcement issue again, because people are just going to do the work without the permits. And, you know, I would look at, you know.
The COA fees are a separate issue. That goes into a fund that if we didn't charge, we don't have to charge those fees, but the town will have to pay for the affordable housing out of its own pocket, and the taxpayers will pay. So the theory is if you're building a new home, that you have to pay for your cost.
Understandably, nonetheless, it's a fee that does nothing at all with construction.
Well, the only good news is we've been able to keep the fees here and use it for folks that are in need. So I'm not saying that it's the right thing to do, but the state
Fees on top of fees on top of fees on top of fees. When does it stop? When does it end?
Again, you know, my only concern for when I know the discussion on is I've worked in municipalities that dealt with DCA inspectors, and all they're really qualified. You're limited to their inspection times and their review times on your application. But as a contractor, I like to look at the shared services first, so that we can have somebody here half a day, every day of the week. When you're waiting to pour a footing on a house and your inspector doesn't come in until Thursday, and you're ready on Monday, it's really a detriment to the contractor and to his schedules, and if you get rain on top of it, now you're 2 weeks out. So,
all right, so let's do this. Let's put this as an unfinished business. Let's, you know, like I said earlier, let's re-agendize this for the next meeting. In the meantime, I'm going to ask you, Barbara, to do some research for us. Dan, I'm going to ask you to do some research with DCA and also what limits we have by statute for raising fees. And then I'll take it upon myself as a challenge to reach out to at least talk to Dennis and see if they might have some interest in that. And we can have at least another lively discussion on this at the next meeting. We don't have to make a decision tonight, obviously, and I think it's something that we should prudently look at before we rush into any decision. But I'm in agreement. I'm not really looking to impose any additional fees on it, because I think ultimately that's sort of a mini way of taxing people, and we're trying to avoid doing that as best we can.
So discourage people from coming in and doing it.
Okay. So let's go on to new business.
Item number 14, Upper Township Historical Society Facilities Report.
You want to take up this discussion, Hobie?
Yeah. I know there was a question on the phone service at the museum down at the train station. I had a conversation with Mr. Hugar, the head of the Historical Society. The township has put in a security system that required a phone service. I told him that I didn't feel there would be a problem with the township paying a portion of the security, but I feel that the Historical Society, since they lease the building for free, should take care of the rest of the phones for their internet and their daily business. That's basically the only we have going there, and looking for the board's direction on that.
Have they agreed to do that? Is that
it's a discussion right now.
Mm-hmm. The only thing I would suggest is wherever you end up, that should be memorialized, at very least between correspondence agreed to between the two parties, and then when we do an amendment to the release, we'll incorporate into that.
Yeah.
But it's
and for the benefit of those who don't know, I mean, we have entered an agreement, the properties we maintain, and we have, you know, basically $1 lease a year, right, with the Historical Society. So it's not like we're not trying to be active and working with them, because I think they have a valuable service. I mean, they keep and maintain a lot of the buildings. Well, our public works helps them maintain the buildings. And, you know, I think preserving things like the Candy House and the Tuckahoe train station has really been an asset to the township. So we like to, you know, continue with that, but obviously we need to look at expenditures. So would you want to look at the lease, or what?
No, I've looked at the leases. I think what Hobie's asking is does he have the authority to represent that the township committee would agree to install a security system?
Security system's installed.
Okay.
So it had to be added to the phone lines, which increased the monthly function, or up to $90-some a month.
And they pay currently for their phone system, correct?
They were. And then they submitted the bill to the township.
Then asking us to pay.
And asking for us to pay the 90. I was also asked, we have a similar thing now with the senior citizen center. We pay for the phone system, the internet, and everything there, but the difference being, it's now under our direction, but we can also use it anytime we want for any kind of meetings or functions. So I don't have as much of an issue with that.
After hours? Yeah.
After hours. So it's a little different use, because the museum is...
Is there a recommendation from your point of view that the township committee should pay the bill or not pay?
Not pay the bill, I think we should pay the percentage it goes towards the security system that we install.
All right, well, what I would suggest is if you want more discussion, you have more
Is that
discussion. If not,
something you
it
can
is a
do?
motion.
The Historical Society right now, I just had a conversation with the treasurer last week when Hobie and I discussed it. They are in the process of trying to break down the phone bill right now. They can't determine it right now looking at the phone bill. They're trying to break it down. There's some internet charges on there, and there may be some other charges on there. So they're trying to break it down to find out either they're going to eliminate the internet, and then it will just be the security portion of the bill. So we're still working on it.
All right, but you'll be able to determine it at some point.
Right.
So the question is, you're going to make that in the form of a motion, and somebody second it, you can...
Are we ready for that now? Or-
I think we are.
Then I'll make a motion that we incorporate that we pay our portion for security, and that the Historical Society pay the balance of the bill. If not, we could have a separate line for the security and a separate line that they could have installed for their internet.
We could just
eliminate the problem.
We could just transfer the security line over to our billing and just remove it from their billing.
That's an easy fix, so I'll make a motion to that effect.
Second.
Any other discussion? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 15, report of RFP for tax map maintenance.
Just to let the township committee know, there's actually two items. There's a closed session item to review the contract negotiations on that RFP. This is really, this item is actually, I think Paul's going to take over the lion's share of the discussion. It's got to do with our tax map maintenance requirements and some recent correspondence between the assessor's office and Division of Taxation to explain what's required.
Yeah, if you remember, we've been waiting for the Division of Taxation to finalize the review after we submitted the tax map changes that we did over last year. They did a review. There was a couple changes that Megan had to make in her computer system on the her end of the data end, but the tax map change, besides I'll say the normalization changes that we knew we were going to have to start doing over the next year or two, they came back with a 64-page itemized list of additional normalization changes that need to be done to the map. My understanding is Megan's talked to Ray Brown and also some folks up at the State Division of Taxation that they're going to possibly give the township a conditional approval to start the revaluation process, but the tax map changes will have to begin at some point. And then, we're going to have to figure out how we're going to program those tax map changes in, because there are obviously going to be some additional costs above and beyond what we have budgeted for the normal tax map changes. And we can, I guess we'll continue that discussion as far as the contractual arrangement with the RFP costs.
And what are we talking about with the amount that need to be changed? Are we talking 10? Are we talking 100? What are we talking about?
Well, just in thousands of dollars or number of changes?
Number of changes, because it looked like the RFP that we're going to discuss, they put line items as to each expense for each change. I mean, what are we talking about? You can give me a rough estimate. I'm not looking for an exact number, but
around 600 different parcel changes at least, not including the other, probably 1,000 or so normalization changes that we were going to have to program in over the next several years that we already knew we were going to have to make based on the review. And again, most of these are very minor in nature, where the maps were drawn with these items on the map back in 1982, had been through at least 2 other reviews by the Division of Taxation. You know, they've been certified that way by the Division of Taxation. We just, unfortunately, there's a person up at the State Division that is reviewing them in such a manner to, you know, really put...
Is it because technology and GPS and things like that have gotten much better, and that's why we're faced with this? Because it's hard to believe we have that many changes that need to take place.
Their emphasis, and they're actually working on regulations that will essentially require, when towns come up for a revaluation, that they have to digitize and go to a digital tax map at the time that they do revaluation. So they, you know, we are not alone. You know, Dennis Township is going through the same process we are, where they are reviewing the maps in much greater detail, essentially to force towns to go to the digital method. You know, I think several years, you know, 3 or 4 years ago, when Middle Township had to do their revaluation, their maps were in such bad shape that the Township Committee just bit the bullet and they funded for digital tax maps because they knew they were not going to get through that process because their maps had not been just updated for the normal course of business, let alone this normalization of changes that really don't affect how the tax map is used, how the tax assessor uses it for valuation purposes, or anything like that. Most people would never notice some of these changes that are requested.
There are 2 aspects to the issue. One is obviously the cost and the time frame to get the work done. I don't think you have a way of getting around that. The second aspect is whether or not the Division of Taxation grants the County Board of Taxation's requests and our assessor's requests that these changes, that we will commit to making them, but they should not hold up our already bid and accepted contract for revaluation, because otherwise it'll take, the time frame alone would push the reval to the next year, and that is a concern. And frankly, the known tax map changes were sent up possibly a year ago, and then we've had small requests for changes back from the Division of Taxation over the course of the year, and then this massive number of changes just recently. So they've had it for over a year, and this is the result, and it really, it could slow up their tax reval, but all indications are, at least at this point, that it won't, so long as the Division of Taxation gives the county and Upper Township the authority to move forward. Both the county tax administrator and our assessor has said the changes they're requesting do not impact the ability of an appraiser in any manner or shape to arrive at a value.
Okay. So we're going to discuss this in closed session?
The contract negotiations with the people that responded to the RFP, I think you need to talk about in closed session because it requires negotiation.
Okay. Right, so then let's move on.
Under unfinished business, Stacy Smith requests for street light on Kildeer Hill Road in Petersburg.
Do we have an opportunity to go over there?
You been here for?
Yeah, I had looked at it. I think I gave my full report last meeting.
So based on that, you feel it's not needed?
I don't believe it meets the requirements under the ordinance for streetlights.
It's not dark along the corner.
There are streetlights at both the neighboring corners, and there is a secondary light. It's not mid-block, but it's within 170 feet of her property towards Dennisville Road, towards northern Meadowview Drive, away from her property.
That should be, that should one within 150 feet of it or so?
Excuse me?
There's one,
175 feet from her property, yes.
Paul, what is the standard for having a light nearby your property?
The ordinance looks at, we recommend them at street intersections, cul-de-sacs, dead ends, in neighborhood streets where you have pedestrian traffic, where there's sidewalks, and on certain curves where there's a dangerous situation where you want to alert a motorist of a sharp or a change in road condition.
So there's not a specification or a standard for how close a streetlight should be to a particular property?
There is no, general distance. At that point, if you're looking at it in a neighborhood area where you have pedestrian traffic, then you're looking at more subjective standard as far as looking at light performance within that neighborhood. But they generally get within between 180 to 250 feet. They're in that range.
So 175 is compared to other areas in the township that's closer?
It's on par. For her property being close to a streetlight, it's on average.
Well, this request wasn't based on anything with ADA or handicap.
No, the resident was concerned. She was backing out of her driveway, I believe she was, and, I guess there was some pedestrian traffic, and, it was probably in the dusk time of night, and, just wanting to be able to see pedestrians or people out in the street better.
With pedestrian traffic being one of the key points that you mentioned, do we see pedestrian traffic on this particular street as being a regular issue, or was it a happenstance occurrence?
I think you have to look at pedestrian traffic on sidewalks, not at pedestrian traffic on the streets, because if that's the standard, then every street would require that at that point. And, we already pay a significant portion of our budget towards streetlights, and,
And just to refresh my memory, what does it cost for a streetlight?
To install it, it's it varies between $1,000 to $1,500, and then it may be, and that's just for installation. For a yearly cost, it might be in $200 to $250 per year per streetlight. I think on average.
So all those lights we have in the township are paying $250 a year?
We have about a little over 700 lights, and we pay a little over $170,000 per year in street lighting.
Well, that's why we need to make sure we at least keep them on. All right, I mean, the cost is a separate issue. I mean, it's more, we have in the past relied on your expertise, and as long as you feel that there isn't public safety that's affected by this, then I think we need to consider what the engineer's saying here. So, who wants to be the bad guy and make a motion to deny the request?
Make a motion to deny the request.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Would someone like to make a motion to pay the bills?
I hereby move that all claims submitted for payment at this meeting be approved and then incorporated into full meeting minutes on this meeting.
Second. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
There are a number of reports of municipal departments, the EMS, the Finance Office, the Green Team, MUA, and Municipal Court. All of those reports will be available tomorrow upon request at the Township Clerk's office, but I'd like to make a motion to accept those reports.
Second.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, at this time, we're going to open up for an opportunity for the public to comment to the Township Committee. We would ask that when you come up, you state your name and your address, and then, whatever you'd like to speak about is fine. We just want to remind you they're being recorded, just so you're aware of that, so there isn't any confidentiality problems or anything. So, would someone like to come up and address the Township Committee? Yes, go ahead. You can start off, Ted.
Ed from Strathmere. On Saturday, the mayor and Committeeman Barr came to Strathmere for the Strathmere Fishing Club meeting, and there was a discussion on the Barrow area with the back bay being filled in with sand. We've talked about this before. So
And the inlet.
in the inlet, there was a discussion as to why we couldn't use that sand out of the back bay. I realize this probably isn't an easy task, but I don't see where it would cost the township any money to ask. And there's some big benefits to it. Number one is there's the issue with the Bayview Drive flooding that it could possibly help. The causeway between Strathmere and Ocean City, because there's so much sand in the back bay there, the inlet is curved around in the back there and is washing all the dirt and a lot of rocks. There's a section there where all the dirt is gone from the rocks. So that infrastructure is in danger. There would also be a benefit, even if it isn't charted. If they dredge back there, it would at least open up the channel. Like I say, even if it isn't charted, it could at least be used. There's probably other benefits to having a borrow area in the back bay. Could we ask the Army Corps to consider, another borrow area? I realize they have the layout in the inlet, but to ask them to set up a borrow area in the back there. I mean, they're doing this massive project. I really would say no.
Listen, we're with you on this. It's not that we wouldn't, we can always ask. But we're kind of at the mercy of the Army Corps for a number of reasons. One, they're fully funding the project themselves, okay? And so, obviously, it's our intention to certainly ask, and Paul, I don't know if you even had that discussion at this point. I'm sure you have.
Yes.
But let's let Paul interject, because he's been working directly with them.
Let them tell us now. You know what I'm saying?
I have had that conversation with them, and actually, the better avenue that if the committee wanted to evaluate that would be actually to talk with the Bureau of Coastal Engineering. They do have back bay dredging money, but that would involve a state-local partnership at dredging that and taking care of that. The reason why the Army Corps is not viable for that, for the initial construction phase, they need such a massive quantity of sand to do southern end of Ocean City, the natural area, Strathmere, and Sea Isle City, that they're not even dredging the inlet area like the other beach fields that we have done. They're not dredging the inlet at all. They're not going to touch that this time. Everything is offshore of, essentially directly offshore of Strathmere, but out in the ocean area. And the reason why they can't look at that is for two reasons. One is permitting. They've been, going through this permit and design process of this project since, I'll say, 1996, and locating the borrow area and doing all the engineering. And then second would be the permitting. For them to go back and change the permitting location would set the project back years. And then the third reason is cost. When they bid these large projects like this, they have to look at the size dredge that they're coming in for. They're going to bring in big dredges for that, ocean-going dredges. They couldn't even use the dredge that they used on our smaller beach hills to do that kind of dredging because of the small nature of getting in the inlet and back in that back bay to where it would be. So it's a total type of different style of dredging, permitting, and cost factor that, for all those reasons that we had discussed in previous years, and I brought up this to the Army Corps previously, and it's just not within what when they do their beach hills, they have to go for the big borrow sites. Now when they do for renourishments, the renourishments will actually come out of the inlet, but they're still only going to come out of the inlet, like when we did our beach hills, not go into the back bay area. I have spoke to the Bureau of Coastal Engineering. That could be a possible viable project to do some back bay dredging, but that would have to be some continued discussion with the Bureau of Coastal Engineering, and that would be a state and township partnership with obvious potential cost sharing involved on the township end to do that.
Well, I think the issue is that a lot of that inlet sand came from Ocean City's former beach projects anyway.
Yes.
And so the reality is if they're going to do a massive additional beach project in the south end, and they need it, they took a beating during Hurricane Sandy, will all that sand ultimately migrate to the inlet to the point where it's not even an inlet anymore? And that's where we run into problems when we do have massive storms that have the surges. They just move that sand and it goes on the roadways and everything else. So, I think, Ted, it's one of those things where we're kind of in a catch-22. We're at the mercy of the people that are funding and doing this project, but that doesn't mean we can't keep trying to ask to see if there's something that can be done.
Just building a case for why it should be done. I mean, that road, if that road goes, the gas pipeline is there for Ocean City and Seattle. The water levels from Sandy were in part because the water couldn't escape out. I mean, there's just so many benefits, and I understand everything you're saying, but I mean, the only what it really comes down to is permitting it.
You have no idea what a permit. I know, but even for our little project, I remember the first beach project we did for Strathmere. It literally, and people didn't really believe it. It literally took us almost 3 years to get that done. For one smaller project, I mean, it's amazing what these long drawn out and I'll say bureaucratic, processes take to get things done. And honestly, I think that's the one thing that sold me more than anything. If you don't have the permit in place, it could be 3 more years to do this project, and we have the funding in place, but we're not going to walk away from it.
No, but
I mean, one possibility would be looking at for the renourishment phase, that work could be a possibility that, for renourishment, they could come back in and look at dredging that and passing that.
That could be 4 or 5 years away.
Oh, sure.
That's not taking care of the problem now.
But that's probably the best that we can do at this point.
The county, the county road is in jeopardy. I mean, could you get any support from the county?
We can ask.
That's all I'm asking, is that
Thank you. Anyone else? Now's the time to do it, yes. We'll keep going backwards. Go ahead, Cynthia.
My name is Cynthia Harrison, and I just wanted to come up and thank Mayor Palumbo for my appointment to the planning board. In case no one else has seen my resume, I went to...
We've all seen it, I've made sure.
To know the types of communities I did. I was in planning board in Port Republic, where I served on council as a representative. And that's a farmers community. And it had the areas on either side of the parkway. One, they had no building allowed, the other was a village community. And that was all, that was us. There was no septic there. It was well water and your own septic system. Then I was president of the planning board in Yardley, Pennsylvania. And that was all, that had city water and city sewage, so that was another entity that was different. And thirdly, I was on the planning board in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and that, they were looking for a non-ag person to be on that, but that was dealing with pollution from the farms of the Mennonites and the pollution of farms going into the Chesapeake Bay. So it's been a diversity of planning boards, and I really welcome the challenge. It's unfortunate that it had to be because of the death of a member who's been part of the board for many years. But I do thank you for the opportunity, and I will do my best to serve you well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, I'm John Halberger. I'm here on behalf of the Oak Township Baseball Association, and I'd like to address some of the comments I saw from the video of the last council hearing, specifically regarding the debate or discussion about whether or not funds for lights at Man's Field should be included within the law. And I apologize, but for the lengthy presentation that I will embark on shortly here. When I watched the video, there were several concerns. One that you expressed, Mayor, that I hope I can appease. And that involved softball as a parent not being included within that discussion. And as I understand the models originally proposed, there was going to be 3 fields with lights at Mansfield for baseball. A larger Babe Ruth field and 2 smaller fields. Honestly, while we'd love to have 3 lights, we have existed for a long time with 2. And baseball would be actually better served, as with softball, if we would reallocate the funds for one field with the lights from Amanda's to Summers Avenue for softball. There are multiple discussions with softball. They've made clear that they really don't have a desire to move from Summers Point. They simply need more field availability, which will be satisfied with lights. So if we're talking about 3 fields with lights, if we can allocate 2 for Amanda's Field and one for Summers Avenue, both baseball and softball benefit greatly.
Will that still mean that we'd have to put the foundations that you talked about for the third field?
What I found is the ledger I got auger into the ground. So it's not initial concrete, they're augered down, it's I think 8 foot in the ball.
I appreciate, baseball's willingness to work with us. I've always been somebody that wants to try and balance it, and, I think that's a great cooperation, and it sounds like something that I certainly would be favorable of, so.
Yeah, baseball and softball are two separate organizations, but we share the same mission, same purpose, same goals.
And probably many of you have girls on softball and boys on baseball, so.
There was a comment that was made by one of the council members that I do think is worth revisiting, and that was the idea that we could reduce field usage time requirements by simply increasing roster size on teams. With all due respect, it's a terrible idea. It's a bureaucratic response that's not sensitive at all to the reality of sports. If you increase the roster size beyond the 12 or 13, the most 14 team now, that equals more bench time. More bench time equals less player satisfaction. Players aren't as interested in the game, they don't enjoy the sport, they don't return. So simply stopping more kids on the one team to reduce the number of field practices times is simply a terrible idea.
Excuse me, I believe you misunderstood that statement.
I hope so.
If you look at the numbers trending year after year, that statement was directed at the fact that there are fewer children playing, or there's fewer students involved in this. So with that, the number of teams would also proportionally decrease while keeping the same ratio that we had on the teams right now.
Okay, I'm
So
glad I understood that.
That's what that was.
And for the sake of clarity, the numbers have not been trending down each year. There has been a remarkable decrease if you compare 4 years ago to 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
Okay.
That's due predominantly from what we believe, the introduction of lacrosse to the township. Players who otherwise be playing baseball now choose to play lacrosse. It's not from a declining interest on a per capita basis.
No, for whatever reason, though, the number supports that there are fewer children playing baseball.
Fewer now than several years ago, but our numbers remain consistent now since lacrosse was introduced.
2011, it was, I believe, 340. I'm sorry. 2012, it was 340. 2013, it was 283.
And we're 2014, and we're basically at the same number, 283.
You're still 283, so again, you've trended down.
Well, 1 year's challenge.
Okay.
Looking forward, there's no reason to believe the numbers are going to continue to trend down.
Right, but they stay consistent at 283, and my question here, and really my question to everybody, and I see there's a lot of people here to talk about this, and I'm glad to see that you're here. Let's come up with a plan to fund this. You made a request that maybe we could move the lights to Summers Avenue. It's a great idea to be inclusive of the softball teams. However, what we're not doing, or what we're not looking at, is the fact that we're keeping open another rec site, which is going to mean additional labor to maintain that site. Let's look at the long-term plan. How can we fund this project? We're looking at a number of costs that would be related to demolition of the existing fields at Caldwell Park, moving those fields over to Amanda's Field, and then going in and replacing them as football fields. Have we looked at the entire cost package of that so we can explain to the town, to the taxpayers, this is what it's going to cost us for this total project, and here's how we're going to fund it. Are we going to be able to fund it by closing down additional sites? So what I'm really looking for is transparency. And what I would like to see is someone like yourself and some other people who are not only aware of the needs of the children within the township, because I believe that the athletic programs are beneficial to our township. Let's look at how we're going to do this, what the long-term plan is going to be, what the cost is going to be, and how we're going to fund it, as opposed to looking at the emotional aspect of it by saying that, oh, well, it's great for the kids, it's going to keep the kids up the street. We all think that. We all agree. We're not trying to take anything away from athletics, but what I'm looking for is a good well laid out plan with a plan for not only executing it, but for funding as well.
Okay.
So if we could get some of the people who are coming tonight to speak to be part of the subcommittee and put these numbers together, I would volunteer to work with you as part of that subcommittee. Mr. Young may be interested in that as well.
Well, I know that one of the other questions that was raised last meeting that I'd like to address tonight involves what is the actual field usage demands and how is it currently satisfied and are these lights truly necessary?
Okay.
And I have the unenvious responsibility of doing the scheduling for all the baseball schedules, so I'm very familiar with what the field requirements are.
Okay.
If you'll indulge me, I'd like to go through
Absolutely.
how it currently operates and what the effects would be by changing to a Amanda's Field with the field lights.
Okay, that's great. That's good information.
We basically have 4 different programs based upon age and field size associated with that age. Excuse me. The largest field in the oldest group would be the Babe Ruth group, ages 13 through 15. And they play in a full regulation size baseball field, referred to as 60-90, 60-foot base, excuse me, 60-foot pitcher's mound distance, 90-foot base distance. This spring season, we have 3 teams encompassing 42 players in that age group. And we presently have 2 fields available to us, each with limitations. The first would be what we refer to as Caldwell number 3. This is the field that's behind the basketball court on Caldwell. It has lights. The second one would be the Upper Township Middle School field that, when it's not being used by the middle school team, is available to us for practice. Unfortunately, that field is not available for games because Babe Ruth games are scheduled in the evening hours and there's no lights there. So our only field that wish to operate with games on Babe Ruth would be Caldwell number 3. Each team will practice twice a week and will play between 1 and 2 games a week. With 2 to 3 evening games per week at Caldwell between all the teams, that leaves 2 to 3 open days of practice at Caldwell, plus 3 to 4 practice availabilities at middle school when they're not using it. So the total practice time slots is between 7 and 10. That's adequate for the 3 teams. Because we currently have lights at Caldwell number 3, our field demands are satisfied in the spring for the new age. Now, I'll get to this again a bit later, but if you remove lights from that equation, suddenly you won't have a big league program because the teams play games. We play all games away,
Right.
which we happen to do in the fall. Incidentally, what I just referred to, that was our spring program. In our fall program, there were normally 2 Babe Ruth teams, and the Caldwell Park is not available at all. The outfield for that field becomes part of the football field, the bleachers installed for a football program. We can understand that. Football is a fall sport, baseball is not, it takes second fiddle, but we can play no home games whatsoever in a fall program. Practices, because of early darkness in the evening, is really unavailable as well. The middle school might be available, but because of darkness,
Got no lights.
it got no lights. So our fall ball program for Babe Ruth is truly shortchanged presently.
Now, how many participants do you have in fall ball? You have 42 in spring ball.
With 2 teams, we carry a heavier roster because a lot of dual playing sports participants. We have a roster of like 15, so maybe on over 30 for Babe Ruth.
Okay.
And those are approximate numbers. The next age level down is what we call our A League. Those in Little League might attribute to or associated with the majors. These are predominantly 11, 12-year-old players, and they're playing on what's known as a 50-70 field, 50-foot pitching distance, 70-foot base distance. This spring, we have 3 teams with 39 players. We have 2 fields available for that field size, both at Caldwell. One of which is lit. Caldwell 1, which is the one closest to the snack stand, is lit. Caldwell 2, which is the one behind the football bleachers, is not lit. Each team will play between 1 and 2 games per week, and each team will practice twice per week. Those 2 fields are the only fields we have available for that size field for that age group. That age group does not require exclusive use of that. There is still some field availability that will share that with the next level, which is our B level, In fact, even lower than that, down to our sea level, they are going to size. We do that so that Caldwell is 100% used at all times. But presently, our field requirement needs are satisfied by 2 fields, one of them being lit at Caldwell.
Okay.
If we remove lights from the equation, we just reduce our availability by 1/3, and it becomes a problem. And I'll get to that again much later.
Right.
In the fall season, we typically have one or two teams at this age. It does vary one year to the next. We'll have 2 one year and 1 the next, and 2 the year after that. Field availability becomes a real problem in the fall on this particular size field, because field 1, which is the one with the lights on it, is dual purpose to be the Pee Wee football practice field in the fall. They don't practice 5 days a week. There's usually 2 days a week with which we are able to use it and do so. Again, being the fall will require the lights. Field 2 is totally unavailable. The fence is taken down, and that field becomes the JV practice field for football. Field 2 simply not available. With 1 practice per week and 1 game per week, the games, because of the league, we're in our Saturdays. Saturdays, we don't have really the opportunity to reschedule that. We can only host home games roughly every other week, only those weeks which football is not using Caldwell Park for their games. So, with 1 home game every other week and 1 practice per week with limited availability, our fall ball program for this age group actually is satisfying.
Okay.
Without lights, though, it wouldn't exist. Our 3rd age group, we call it the B League. For those in Little League lingo, would be the minor leagues. Typically, these are 9 and 10-year-old players. They likewise share the Caldwell 1 and Caldwell 2 fields. There's between 4 and 5 teams per year. This year we have 4. There are, let me break the numbers down for that, participants. I'm sorry, 52 players this year in the spring season. This age group uses 4660 bases, which is a smaller field. The 2 Caldwell Park fields are actually adaptable. We call them flex fields. They accommodate with larger size and smaller size. So they likewise can play at Caldwell Park.
Full base.
However, the availability for practice there, given the A-League schedule, and then the C-League game schedule is very limited. So we have Caldwell Park for games, and we also have, I'm hoping returning this year, the elementary school. Elementary school is 2 fields on. In the past several years, they've not been available to us because those fields are used for soccer. I understand that's not the case anymore, so I'm optimistic that those 2 fields will become available for baseball to use for practices. Those teams will likewise play between 1 and 2 games a week, and they will each practice twice a week. So the elementary school available, that provides for 10 weekday practice sessions and 10 Saturday sessions. I've got 6 teams that are competing for that, and again, presuming the elementary school field is available for us, we actually satisfy those needs without having to go to any other fields. Without the elementary school fields, we really have no opportunity except about the Tuckahoe field, or Tuckahoe Road fields, and there's multiple problems with that, being that there's no mound to begin with, and those fields are really now dedicated for C-League and T-ball. In the fall season, we normally have between 1 and 2 teams, and they share it, Caldwell Field 1 with the A-League level teams, and presently, except for practices, the game schedules are reasonably accommodated. But again, it's all conditioned predicated upon lights. Without the lights, that doesn't exist. Our 4th age level we call C-League. This would be the rookies in Little League lingo. These are typically 6 and 7-year-olds. They play again a smaller 4660 field. We have 7 teams this year with 62 players. And the fields available for us there are again sharing the Caldwell 1 and 2 for games, but most if not all the practices take place at the Tuckahoe Road fields.
Okay.
These teams, again, will play between 1 and 2 games per week, and they will look to practice twice a week. Again, games are only at Caldwell. We have the Tuckahoe Wood Fields, and again, hopefully with the elementary school fields becoming available to us, they'll be able to practice. And again, we have no lack of opportunity or need for the spring season. But again, it's all predicated upon the lights that we presently have at Caldwell. The youngest group we have is T-ball. These are 5 and 6-year-olds. We have actually 8 teams this year. There's 74 players. They play at Tuckahoe Fields exclusively. Up to last year, there was a field dedicated exclusively for T-ball at the old Tuckahoe Road field. Last year, that was taken out of commission, and fortunately, we had enough ability to accommodate them with the Tuckahoe fields that we weren't terribly hurt by that. But they'll play either 1 or 2 games a week or 1 practice a week, usually never more than a total of 2 game, combination game and or practice. Their average demand is about 4 hours per week per team, either a game of practice or 2 games or 1 game of practice. With 10 sessions available at the Tuckahoe Fields, 6 of which have already been taken up by C-League. That leaves 4 sessions to be shared by 8 teams for T-ball, which means necessarily some that spills into a Saturday. But it's, again, able to be accommodated. And there is a fall season for either them or the previous C-League that I was referencing. So if I can kind of summarize what the current fields are and the usage are. We have Caldwell number 1, lit field, flexible field for 46, 60, and 57. In the spring, it's used by A, B, and C leagues, plus 2 travel teams at the 46, 60 level, and A-league practices. 16 teams total touch that field, and it's 100% utilized during the week with 2 2-hour session blocks. That includes, again, relying upon the lights that are there. In the fall, it's used for A and B league fall teams, plus 2 fall traveling teams. It's only available on 2 weeknights when those lights are necessary, and every other Saturday when football's not used Caldwell. Caldwell number 2, unlit field. It's used by A, B, and C league games, 2 46 travel teams, and A-league practices. Again, 16 teams will touch this field. It's 100% utilized during the week with 1 2-hour session per day. That's not like one session. In the fall, that field is not available. Caldwell number 3, this is the Babe Ruth field behind the basketball courts. In the spring, it's used for Babe Ruth games and practices. 3 teams will touch the field, although there may be a 4th up and coming. We're ready to start a 16 to 19-year-old Babe Ruth level. That's up and coming. Each will have 2 practices per week and 1 to 2 games. Games again are in the evening there. Most of these players also play school ball on necessity. The league we're in, the Babe Ruth games are always played in the evening hours. Lights are absolutely required. And in the fall, that field is unavailable. We have to play every game away, and we basically can't practice. The Upper Township Middle School, there's 1 unlit field there. It's a 60-90 field. In the spring, it's used for Babe Ruth practices. It was not being used in the middle school. 3 teams touch that field. Weekday games are not possible because there's no lights. And in the fall, the fields are available, but we can't use them because again, there's no lights. We have 2 fields at the Upper Township Elementary School, which I'm hoping, I saw some nodding heads, that we'll be able to rely upon those in this upcoming spring. They use for B-League practices during the week, C-League practices on Saturdays. In the fall, they're not necessary, and I don't even know they're available. They're in a horrible condition, by the way. We have the 2 Tuckahoe Road fields, both of which are unlit. Both are small 46-60 and no mounts. In the spring, it's used by C-League practice, the T-ball games in practice. 15 teams will touch that field. It's 100% utilized during the week. And the fall, it's not used or necessary. So in total, there's 8 fields in use, including 2 with lights. That's how it presently operates. The effect of not having lights on those 2 fields we have lights on now. Usage on field 1, Caldwell's cut in half. 1 2-hour practice game session is lost each weekday for a total of 10. So that would be 5. No alternative facilities available to make up for those sessions, everything else is 100% utilized. Call 3, this is the larger field, would require basically abandonment of our Baby Ruth spring program. We wouldn't be able to practice, we wouldn't be able to play games. And in the fall program, we continue without a license, we'd be forced to continue to again play 100% of our games away and no practices. So if we were to approve the funds for lights at Amanda's Field, we would have one Baby Ruth and one of what we call the flex fields. The effect of that, when we're done, we end up with one Baby Ruth lit field, one lit 50-70 flex field, 2 unlit 50-70 flex fields, 2 46-60 fields, and a T-ball field for a total of 7. I'm presuming that the middle school and elementary schools would continue to be available for practices should they be necessary. The effect on Baby Ruth is, first of all, fall ball is now viable for us. No longer is the field lost to football. We have lights we need, we have the space we need, it's not in conflict. So fall ball for Baby Ruth program now suddenly becomes viable again. On the remaining leagues, honestly, there's no real net effect because we're simply relocated from one place to the other. If we were to not provide lights at Amanda's, and I'll use the hypothetical, we were to lose the lights at Caldwell, again, Baby Ruth would we continue to be disserviced, and if we had no lights, then even our A League and B League would end up being unavailable. So bottom line is we've got to have the lights.
Yeah, and you know what, you've got lights now in 2 fields, and I'm not saying that you don't need to have lights. I think what we need to look at is this. What is the cost to accomplish what we're trying to do? Right now, we're using 8 fields, 2 of them being lit. With these changes, what is the aggregate change? Will we still be at 8 and 2? And then, in addition to that, will we be able to accomplish this plan and with the same lights in the same locations, eliminate some of these other fields? Can we squeeze a softball field over at Amanda's Field that could also be used so we can close Summers Avenue as one less place we have to maintain? What is going to be the cost to the township for the demolition of the
We're not going to be able to close Summers. They have 3 fields there.
There's no way we can consolidate their fields.
There's not the room to do it.
No,
Okay.
that's even,
Possibly a game field, but we're going to do that.
we just don't have the land at Amanda's Field to even consider that.
Okay, so are there some opportunities for reducing our maintenance by doing this? Because from what I'm seeing is we're going to be demolishing fields at one location, we're going to be rebuilding them at another location. In addition to the cost of the lights, there's going to be the cost of demolition and construction. So, what are those costs to the township? How are we funding? That's what I'm interested in pointing out to the taxpayers. And I think that's important. I think you've got some great information here. I think the only thing I would do maybe a little bit different to present that would be, this is the number of field hours we have available. This is the number of practice and game hours we need. You're pretty much there in terms of it's just maybe consolidating the information a little bit differently.
Yeah, unfortunately, I actually attempted to do it exactly as you just suggested, and the reality of it is
I know it's not easy.
Well, it's very adaptable.
Yeah.
If you were to change one field availability, then the trickle down effect to the other categories becomes, it's a never-ending loop. We can never get to the final answer saying, here are the hours, here are the field requirements.
You actually forgot one other scheduling thing you have to put in there is, if you're playing a game that evening or on a Saturday, that field is out of availability for a practice for that day, even if it has some availability, because...
It's not a team,
It's been perfectly game. Right. I've actually built that into these numbers, but except for our weekends, I figure that our spaceball guys will simply have to line the fields ourselves if you want to be able to practice earlier in the day, which is a need.
And again, there's 138,000 already in the bond allocated for lights.
Right.
For 2 fields. We were looking at the 3rd field, and that's where the questions came in. And also, we got to keep in mind, this has been a project that's been earmarked and ongoing for approximately 12 years. And, to not go forward with the plan now, we've just spun our wheels for 12 years and not going to finish a project that should have been finished probably 7, 8 years ago.
And that's a nice segue, if I'm able to kind of bring this to a level of conclusion. About 12 years ago, the concept of consolidating baseball to Mansfield was created and a plan developed. It was acknowledged then, it was a long-term plan, no expectations it was going to happen immediately. The 10-year plan is now 12 years. Responsive to the plan and commitment by the township to see the plan through, the baseball organization underwent significant fundraising efforts to assist with the transition. Excitement was high in the community and the support was overwhelming. The baseball board raised between $70,000 and $80,000 8 or 9 years ago to construct the indoor batting facility, which was kind of going to be the hub of the Mansfield baseball complex. The funds were raised, the building was built, and it's been in operation now for more than 3 years. While it's been well utilized in the 8 years, it remains the sole physical identifier of the Mansfield plan up until very recently. Approximately 2 years ago, a dedicated effort to advance construction on 3 fields was made by the township. The express completion schedule then was for fall 2013, grass seed was used. If we had interest in having it available for spring of 2013, then sod was going to be required, and that simply wasn't within the township budget. Baseball went to the money that it raised, and it purchased sod to the tune of about $25,000. And I can't tell you how many hundreds of man hours volunteer labor was spent installing that sod in the fall of 2012. And I'm not exaggerating when I said the last pieces were being put down as Hurricane Sandy was making landfall.
This has got plenty of water.
Again, continuing with the commitment that fields are going to be running in spring 2013, we spent an additional $25,000 on wind track material and batting cage fencing and concrete. Again, the site with the community was high, we saw the end of the site, and we're all looking forward to the fields being available to play. Now, in the spring 2014, the year after it was supposed to have been done, and unfortunately it's not. Over the 6 years that I've personally been involved with the baseball program, I've participated in several meetings with city officials, including former Recreation Partner Brenda Layton, Mr. Dietrich, Councilwoman Gabor, Councilman Barr, Mayor Colombo, and most recently, Councilman Young. All these meetings were approached with all the best intentions. And I commend and sincerely thank each of you for your support with this. Unfortunately, more urgent needs have always superseded the priorities of finishing Mansfield. The decision to proceed with the funds necessary for the lights yields more results than the simple addition of lights to these fields. The field conditions of Caldwell Park, which is currently our hub, continue to degrade. Reasonable and conscious decision to not spend money in those fields makes sense because why spend it there if you're going to be up at Mansfield. But in the interim, the conditions of those fields is truly deplorable. Those fields never get an opportunity to be seeded because when they're not being used for baseball, they're being used for football. There's never a growing season when they're at rest. Compare these facilities to those of our surrounding towns, and you begin to realize how poor these facilities are compared to those towns. And I don't like to say ridicule, but in the baseball community, our fields are ridiculed. And that's an embarrassment to our township. Installation of lights logically should have been one of the first items performed at maintenance. Unfortunately, it wasn't. And I understand there's resistance now towards advancing any further construction until the infrastructure is in place. But now I think it's the time to finally bring this long 12-year journey to an end. Let's bring it to completion. And if you bear with me just a bit longer, I'm going to address one more comment that I heard last meeting that involved lights only benefiting about 300 families of the township. And I'm sorry, but I couldn't disagree with that comment more. I'm going to read off a couple quotes from noted studies. The first from Paul Camo, who is a recipient of the most prestigious graduate award for innovation in social service programs from Harvard. First quote is, "Sports are more than a game. They are a set of life lessons. Kids growing up without them are really disadvantaged." Second one is, "Kids who participate in sports, attend school more, are more community civic minded, get in less trouble, and can be more successful in the workplace. They have done studies from corporate leaders in the country. The number who made honor roll was less than 20%. Those who played sports between 70 and 80%. Young athletes learn to work together, acquire leadership skills, and get a sense of discipline and learn communication skills. All of these things are keys to the success of the workplace. Another quote I'd like to read is from the President's Council on Fitness and Sports. This is from Series 2, number 11. It's an article written by Vernon Seafeld and Martha Ewing. Two highlights. The first one is, although sports are not viewed as a panacea for society's ills, sports participation that emphasizes skill building and socially acceptable responses to personal relations has proven to be a popular aid in the education of youth. If the discretionary time of individuals is not devoted to positive skill-building activities, including the ability to participate in games, dances, and sports of one's culture, the potential for involvement in numerous socially unacceptable behaviors is increased. The inability or unwillingness of adults to provide for constructive experiences in sports during the leisure hours of youth looms as a formidable barrier. But it must be addressed in order to provide a more positive environment for children to learn the skills of a diverse society. And this isn't so much a quote as less of bold statements, but participating in sports. First, build self-esteem, self-respect, and dignity. Provide social interaction with peers and adults. Helps develop talents. Teaches sportsmanship and how to control emotions. Teaches teamwork. Shows kids how to play within the rules. Teaches kids how to deal with adversity by showing them it's all right to make a mistake. Instills self-discipline and an awareness of the value of preparation. Teaches kids how to deal with criticism. Provides leadership opportunities. Fosters a sense of community by developing a sense of belonging or to be part of a group. Teaches time management and the value of planning ahead. Develops skills for handling success and failure, and provides a stress relief from academic and social pressures. So believe it or not, I'm ready to conclude.
No, I appreciate all the time and the effort that you put into it, and, certainly, I understand the value of the metrics. And you know what, I will tell you that my kids had a great opportunity to, as they're growing up, and now they're grown 33 and 31, to be a part of a lot of the sports that were being offered, both baseball, and they play basketball, and they play football. I certainly am in agreement with you that the 10-year project is now 12, and it's time to complete this. So it's certainly something that I will work for moving forward. So.
Much appreciated.
John, what are the players' fees this year for your team? Well, I look at the money that baseball's put into a township facility, and now the parents are paying the bulk of it on an annual basis because we took away most of the budget. And I'm trying to get a feeling for how much it is, and
our Babe Ruth fees, which is our wholesale group, is $100 per player. The B and C league levels, actually, A, B, and C are all $75 per player, and our T-ball is $50 per player. Those fees have gone up probably on the order of about 50 to 60% over the past couple of years, owing to the removal of funding from grant programs.
do you do anything for families that have more than one kid in the program? Are they prorated, or?
The first two are not. If you have a third, the third part is free.
But you put substantial money back into a township facility, and in the meantime, you've also taken over all the maintenance. You have your own equipment, purchasing your own equipment, and supplying everything that you need, except for the liability insurance and the field.
Capital improvements and the field. That the township continues to provide. All other costs of the sports are borne by the Division Sports Baseball. And we do some other community outreach things as well. We give on the order of $2,000 a year in scholarships to graduating seniors from City High School who participated in the Township baseball program for at least, I don't know, is it 3 years, right? It's either 3 or 5 years that they participated in our program for 3 to 5 years, I forget which. Then they qualify for a scholarship, and we give out about $2,000 worth of that a year.
Roughly, how many volunteers as coaches and things do you have in your program, just a ballpark?
There's probably on the order of 75 to 80 between coaches, assistant coaches, board members, snack stand. Actually, we include snack stand volunteers. It's virtually every single family.
And everybody has to volunteer, or they pay additional funds, correct?
Correct.
And as I looked at the program, and again, The meeting I had with your board, I thought went excellent. I was very pleased with the feedback and the compromises that your board was willing to go with as far as locations of certain structures there and those things. I commend you on what you guys are doing and what you put back into the township. Having grown up here and played with sports for about $5 to join,
You should pay a nickel for Hershey bars and stuff.
I think I was picking strawberries for 10 cents a quart. I've been through the whole gamut of when the township paid for everything versus now. And I understand one of these, prove our numbers to the taxpayers, but it's the first time we've ever done that. And again, I'm not sure, I think you guys have done more than your share and created quite a burden and assumed a lot of the cost. I think the township is doing you a grave disservice by not just pursuing this and getting these kids a place to play and show the volunteers the appreciation. You guys put a lot of hours in, and that's something that a lot of people don't do. And the money we put into the sports program doesn't even come close to offsetting your time.
And thank you. It's difficult when you get excited and you get the energy up and you get the support up to advance our projects such as Venice Field. And with this stop and start on multiple occasions, it makes it difficult to re-energize it the next time. We're all very anxious.
I understand being disheartened by the conversations we had, and I just hope that we can move forward with this and join hands with your program and get this up and done.
We very much look forward to that.
John, would you be willing to participate in a township subcommittee to review the funding and how we're going to pay for the moves that we're attempting to make from moving the existing fields over to Amanda's Field? Sure. Okay, great.
I would hope that it doesn't delay the approval of the bond for any time now. Thank you.
I have a quick question. You can direct it, Bart, what's the project for recreation?
What is the project?
The budget.
215,000?
Yeah, for the operating?
Yes.
Yes. Actually, I think it's 195,000.
The developers fund, which used to be in place, stopped, right?
Correct.
When did the fund money run out? At what point did it run out?
3 or 4 years ago, I believe we used the balance of the Recreation Developers Fund. I think it's been 3 or 4 years.
That was the beginning of the push for the completion of Memphis Field.
Yep.
The township surplus, when did it end?
The surplus.
The township used to have, and we eliminated
Well, this surplus has been going down. I mean, we still have surplus, but it has been decreasing.
What, 10, 14, 15, 20 million dollars surplus? 10, 12, 15?
Not in my tenure, not in my tenure.
17 years. We never
And it's gradually down, less and less, where it's
Right.
gone.
We're currently under $1 million in surplus. Before, it was a couple $1 million in surplus we would carry.
We're now forced to, whatever we do, we're going to go on in bonds, because the more that we got, it's not enough. So we're bonding each year and every year for something else. That means the tax will go up every year.
Well, I mean, it's up to you whether you bond or not.
But I'm saying for all, every day, every year, things that we need, we're pretty much bonded every year.
Well, we've done the multi-purpose.
Beach replacement, we're bonded.
Yeah, this is really.
We bonded only up to this point for beach replenishment.
That's correct.
But
The
now,
bond that's-
we're now, every bond, 3.7, 3.9.
Well, we haven't purchased very much equipment off of that at this point.
And nonetheless, it's bond steel for what we need to push, and we haven't pushed a lot of stuff yet already.
We've purchased trash trucks so far, and the containers.
We haven't.
We don't have the money to do anything other than, if we want to do something else, we have to go on bond.
The money is allocated in the bond currently.
The question is, where's the money coming from?
The money is allocated in the bond.
Surplus is gone.
Trying to answer the question.
The money is allocated in the bond currently for the lighting.
Yes.
The additional $50,000 is allocated in the bond currently.
We have to pay for it.
That's correct. And I'm saying it is allocated in the bond currently.
But we have to pay for it. If it's spent,
If it's spent, yes.
it's no other way to get it from, other than go up and raise taxes, which we are going to. So, 10 years ago, we had money available to do all these things. Now we don't. Where is the money going to come from? We're going to raise taxes. It's so what we do if the kids are getting the sports that they want. Great. Nobody's denying that. Nobody's denying that what should we put in. Where does the money come from?
First of all, I understand that while the grant that was given by the county cannot be used for lights,
Correct.
that certainly can be used for other parts of recreation.
Yes.
That would take money otherwise allocated for recreation that cannot be spent on lights.
But again, it's not looking around.
I never expected anything for free. If we would buy something, we pay for it. So yes, does it surprise me when we say that if we want to buy something, we have to pay for it? That's how we do it in the private sector every day.
Right, but it's so what we do if the kids are getting what they need, what they want, which is pretty much a luxury. Now, put that in front of the senior person, and it's an official income, and then has to pay for it.
It's a matter of, is it a worthy capital investment? And my response to that is unequivocally, absolutely, yes.
I have
to raise a question.
Especially,
when we're talking about that.
Well, unless you can tell me how we're going to make this work, where the money's going to come from with these lights.
If you're asking me to be able to snap my fingers to give you money to go spend on lights, that's not going to happen.
Well, we can't step our fingers either, do that.
So the answer comes through prudent financial practice and includes taxes.
No, we have the threat of the power company shutting down. That's pretty much real. It may, no, it's real. It can happen. If we do that, it's not more stake than this.
Again, from my opinion, it comes down to, is it a worthy capital investment?
Of course it is. I understand that. I have 8 grandkids that play sports in Township. Not 1, not 2, 8 of them. And without pretty much in every face of it. I know what it is. I want them to keep having this for that. But when it comes down to where they're getting to play and somebody possibly can't eat, I've got a problem with that.
Which would lead to my question. We went through this whole bond process. Before I was elected, the concerns were always, if we get the money, we're going to spend it. We went through the bond process, looked at everybody's department. Mine was the last department that was heard. Mine's the only one that's being scrutinized. We spent over $500,000 in vehicles, equipment, and nobody raised the question to Public Works. I'm looking for an additional $50,000 to help out 300 or 400 kids in this township. And I just had a question as to why this is being scrutinized and the entire Public Works budget was just put through. We didn't ask you to verify trucks, tractors, mowers.
It was all here.
It was all there.
That's what here.
Well, if we're going to verify numbers, then let's verify everything.
We're not.
It's all the time.
Hold on, Ralph, we're getting way off where we need to be. We'll just continue with the discussion. Let me just give you
Let's continue now. Why go forward? Let's finish the conversation.
My question is, you're going to ask me for verification of numbers, I want to see verification numbers on everything that you put in the bond. That's it. So everybody has to say, that's all.
You should ask for it. You want it now, get it now.
Well,
I can't go and spend $50,000 when I know where it's going to come from.
Same place your
Well,
money's coming from.
we are not to the point to vote on what we're spending, the expenditure on the bond tonight. We're having a presentation, an explanation. It's something that was asked for, and it was something that there are some committee members that wanted to get some additional. May I finish, please? Okay, thank you. And so we're not to that point. And so, but I will say that eventually, and probably at the next meeting, we'll be voting on some of the bond. It's not an agendized item, so we can't just vote tonight to make a decision because it hasn't been publicly, the public hasn't been informed that we're going to have that on the agenda. So I would anticipate some additional discussion. Obviously, there's some heated discussion. probably in 2 weeks. It's something that we can address and put it on the agenda and further discuss it. The idea of bonding, obviously you have to pay it, but we are in a unique position of being probably one of the only towns that have only bonded once or twice in our entire 200 and some year history. And so it doesn't mean that we should go out and spend things, haphazardly, and we haven't done that. And that's one of the reasons why Mansfield isn't done yet. But it also was an opportunity in a way for a township to be somewhat, or city to be creative and plan for the future. So, and that's why we use bonds. So we will address this, probably in 2 weeks. But I do thank you for giving us, a presentation this night. I think it certainly expanded what we started with last meeting. And it's certainly something that, I can't predict where it's going to go, obviously. But, it'll certainly be taken into consideration. And, it's something that we will discuss, correct, Dan, at the next meeting. We have planned to put it on the agenda.
Public hearing.
Exactly, because there's an ordinance out there, and that's where the discussion will come into play.
In the meantime, as soon as the fields dry out of the Amandas, we will continue to work on them and get them ready to play with the apple lights.
Much appreciated.
Okay.
And we'll also work on getting those fields on field number 1 and field number 2 and 3 at Caldwell, so that you can get ready for this season.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
My name is Ed Terry. I'm a resident of Beasley's Point and a lifelong resident of Upper Township. First of all, I'd like to commend John for his attention to detail. It took a lot of time for him to do that. And I was asked by the current Baseball Association to offer some thoughts as a past board member. I'm not prepared to answer any questions like John was. So, excuse me, but I'm going to read a prepared statement just to keep things organized and concise. I won't have much more time with this evening. I was asked by the current members of the Baseball Association to offer some history and thoughts as a former member of the association regarding the completion of the baseball fields, lights, and other projects at Amanda's Field. I feel comfortable commenting because I'm someone who has participated in many aspects of the recreation programs in Upper Township. With that being said, most of my time has been spent with the baseball program. As a youth, I participated as a player. As a teenager, I participated as an umpire. And as an adult, I coached in the program and became even more involved as a board member and eventually served a term as president of the Upper Township Baseball Association. During that time, I was also a member of the now dissolved Upper Township Recreation Committee during the early stages of the Amanda's Field project. And I have continued to volunteer. I have continued my volunteer involvement as a coach and mentor to the youth of our township. During my time as a board member, I recommended against publicizing all the things ways a volunteer organization contributed to the township and its facilities. I did not want us as volunteers to say, look what we did. In hindsight, not making the township's taxpayers aware of the organization's accomplishments may have been somewhat of an error in judgment. We did not make the taxpayers aware that we were able to organize, gather funds, and physically assist with the installation of lights at Caldwell Park without major taxpayer burden. We organized, gathered funds, and physically worked to construct an indoor batting facility that is second to none and has been an asset to our township, as it has been an asset to our township's youth without major taxpayer burden. The current board organized, raised funds, and physically worked to purchase and install sod on the yet-to-be-completed baseball fields at Amanda's Field, again, without major taxpayer burden. These volunteer projects add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars of savings to the taxpayers of Upper Township. After a while, as a volunteer, when more is asked of you, you run out of energy to organize sign-ups, set up teams, organize practices, coach games, form a budget, raise the funds, sit on committees, and physically do the work to continue to offer the services and facilities that the youth and adults of our township deserve. During the Recreation Department's period of transition, the volunteers have tried to do everything that has been asked of them by the Township and the Township Committee. The surrounding townships in Cape May County have been able to accomplish many things, and I hope that our township will continue to do so as well. The recreation programs and volunteers of Upper Township need the Township Committee's help on this one. Quite frankly, it seems the time has come to complete Amanda's Field. During my time as a member of the Baseball Association and Recreation Committee, we were always asked to be patient regarding the project's completion, which included baseball fields and lighting. We understood why and remained patient. While being cognizant of the fact that the Township Committee is entrusted with our township's financial well-being, I am no longer convinced that it is fiscally responsible to not work toward the completion of a project that has accounted for countless hours of discussion, manpower, and other resources for so many years. Specifically, completing the baseball fields with lighting will allow baseball and football to both exist in areas specific to their activity. It would also help to re-energize the program's participants and volunteers. With the baseball program utilizing Amanda's Field and the football program utilizing Caldwell Park, common sense would tell me this would allow for a savings on facility maintenance for years to come, while doing nothing will almost certainly allow for a larger financial commitment from the township and its taxpayers when and if this project's completion is looked upon, but when is it looked at yet again in the future. I am here tonight not as someone who supports baseball or recreation, but as someone who supports Upper Township, the Township Committee, fiscal responsibility, and all the activities that our current volunteers provide to the youth and adults of our community. I see Amanda's Field, when it is completed, as a hub of activity for the Upper Cape May County area. On any given weekend, you can see a soccer game, adult football games, a nighttime hockey game, baseball under the lights, young people utilizing the skate park, people walking on the walking path, and many other outdoor activities such as tennis, basketball, etc. As a taxpayer, I would love to see that kind of community activity in a healthy atmosphere. To me, that would mean people are enjoying themselves and many of the benefits that our great township has to offer. And in closing, as a taxpayer and someone who appreciates living in Upper Township, I respect and understand the difficult decisions that our Township Committee must make. But I also see the completion of these projects at Amanda's Field as not only an investment in our current programs, but as an investment in our youth and the entire township as a whole for the future. Thank you for the time off my thoughts.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks.
My name is Randy Leiser. I'm a resident of Seaville. I'm one of the newest members of the Upper Township Baseball Association Board, and I'm a longtime baseball coach for the last 5 or 6 years. I've currently got 3 kids enrolled in the program. John provided us with a lot of detail a few minutes ago. I'll be very, very brief. I just want to highlight one of the things that we talked about in our meeting the other night with Mr. Young. I appreciate him hearing us just as I appreciate the committee hearing us tonight. It's certainly the role of the committee to question expenditures. No doubt about that, and I thank you for that as a taxpayer. But I think one of the things that's important to keep in mind is that an expenditure of this nature is certainly a prudent one. Not only does it benefit baseball, we talked about the compromise with the softball program earlier, providing them with lights as well. It helps to eliminate the conflict with football at Amanda's Field. But it also makes a lot of sense and is prudent in the sense of a first things first approach in terms of getting the lights in place and the associated infrastructure rather than moving forward on a piecemeal basis and putting more turf or fencing or whatever and then having to tear that out or ruin it when lights go in later. So from that standpoint, it might actually be saving the township money in the long run. And I think that's something important for the committee to consider. I'll end with that, and once again, thanks for hearing us.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Yes?
Good evening. My name is Marty Stanczak. I live at 1731 Route 9, Osprey Point, Unit 72. I'm new to this township as a resident, moved here in November, but I'm not new to the baseball situation. My grandson has played T-ball, now is playing Babe Ruth ball. So I've followed Upper Township baseball for quite a few years. And I guess I came here with no agenda. I have no preparation in terms of what I want to say, but I took some notes in listening to what was going on tonight. And it raised some questions for me as a resident, as a senior citizen, and a resident of Upper Township. Talking about funding, 12 years ago, I guess this project began, seemed to me that that was the time to be talking about funding. And I think Mr. and Sarah pointed that out today and said that this was funding at that point in time. And he raises the question, what happened between 12 years ago and today? Why are we talking about funding for lights? If it was in the original proposal and budget, then certainly 12 years later, putting that money aside someplace, earning nominal interest, we would more than have enough money to put the lights in. So it seems to me that that's not even it's a good question as far as I'm concerned. I think that's something that was committed to, it seems to me, from listening to what has been stated this evening.
Well, I should clarify something, that the land itself was purchased through Green Acres. And we have an agreement, with a long-term agreement with the county. They own the land, okay? And we pay them a nominal $1 a year. It's not in perpetuity, it's probably 15 with a renewable 15, I think it is, where as long as we continue to use it for recreation, we continue to try and develop it, it stays into the township's hands to be used for recreation. To say that it was funded 12 years ago is just not the case. It was purchased.
There's a misunderstanding on my part.
Right. It was purchased through Green Acres with the idea that that was an existing turf farm that had some good ground on it. It had a sprinkler system in place. It had a large well, had a pump on the well. It just seemed like a great fit for recreation. And it was also combined, and this is going way back, with the idea that at one point there was also a referendum to build a high school here instead of in Ocean City, okay?
That's another story.
Well, that's another story in itself, but that field was something that was also being considered for potential for high school fields as well. So there's a lot of history to this whole process, but it was never really totally funded. It was always the idea that it would take us 10 years to do this project, okay? We ran into some roadblocks. We had some emergencies over in Strathmere where we had massive loss of beach one year. We had to pay $800,000 to do that. We had 2 beach replenishments that threatened the infrastructure over there, which, by the way, gives us a lot of funding from a tax standpoint. So we had to protect the homeowners over there as well. So we ran into some storms that we didn't anticipate. We ran into a lot of other things where we had to put priorities. But at all times, we at least were trying to inch our way forward. And that's why, we're at a process, and really we're at a point now where, it probably is time to get this done somehow, some way. But to say that we had the money to do all the fields 12 years ago just isn't true. It wasn't there. It was, we'll continue to do this project and fund it in a way that doesn't offset some of the services that we offer. I'm the only one that has the history because I'm the only one I've been on this township committee for 17 years. Okay, and so I remember the whole process. I remember what we did. Dan was actually just starting as our attorney back then, and so it was an idea that we were trying to consolidate fields. We were trying to make something that ultimately the township could be very proud of, and I still think that's a reality. I still think that's yet to come, but that's I just really wanted to qualify some of the statements and say the reason why it hasn't been done at this point.
No, I guess what I misunderstood what Mr. Sarah was saying, that in the beginning when you were talking about this project, it was funded?
It wasn't. No, it was not funded.
It was not funded at all.
It was not.
The development fund was paid for.
That's money put aside when large subdivisions were constructed. Instead of building one baseball field in a 25-lot subdivision, they would say, I'll pay you the cost of that, and it went into a developer's fund. That developer's fund was at the most $300,000-$400,000 is what we ended up with.
Oh, I don't think it was that high.
Wasn't even that high? I think it was at one time $300,000 or $400,000.
Maybe it was $300,000 or $400,000.
But it was used all at Amanda's Field for the bike path, the walking trail, fencing, other improvements that was done, but it was not enough money to build out the entire time. And that's what the mayor was saying when it was never budgeted, it was never funded. We had some money, but there wasn't enough.
Yeah, that was stating that in terms of how it was presented.
No, that's okay, I just wanted to clarify. That's all.
I appreciate it. But as you say, I think at this point, you're talking about a number of young men who have really, if you look at it, have been given a little carrot at the end of the stick for now going on 12 years, you know, and been pulling that stick back further and further. Those young men, I know, because I've talked to a number of them, you know, they see that Amanda Field as the place where they could play and be proud of it. I've gone to many, many baseball games in many, many different communities. And as John pointed out, there's a little flack in terms of what we present to teams that come in here to play. So with that, I'll conclude and just say that I would hope that Mr. Mayor, members of the council, that take this as seriously as you can and try to get this project completed so these young men have an opportunity to play in the woods. Thank you.
Thank you. Another time, not one of the bills, about having the right to use the bill.
I'm sorry.
It's not about not wanting to do it, it's about having the right to use the bill. You know, come up with one.
Well, I think Mr. Coggins indicated he would have a subcommittee to possibly come up with some ideas. And certainly, I think, but I think the sooner the better. Not, you know, 12 years goes into 14 years, and you're still looking at the same thing, and that carrot still sticks out there. You know, and I understand your point. I understand your point. Listen, I'm a taxpayer. You know, I'm a senior citizen. Senior citizens don't like to spend money. You know, don't like to pay taxes. You know, any more than they have to.
No one likes to pay.
No, you do. When you see the benefit that's derived, you don't mind paying taxes. I certainly don't mind paying taxes when we have snow situations like we have, and we have the works people around here, the township work people do the job that they do cleaning up and so forth. I don't mind paying taxes for that. I don't mind paying taxes to see those kinds of things. People don't mind that. But I think, you know, we need to get this project completed because, once again, as I said, dragging you on, it becomes more costly on top of it. So with that, you know.
I want to see Huddersfield fully developed to be a sports complex and eliminate the rest of it.
So you're on board?
We can have all in Huddersfield.
We can do that.
As our sports complex.
Listen, we can do that. With a little bit of imagination, if we have money in one section of the budget appropriated in funding athletics or recreation, and we need to take it from one place and put it into another place, you can do that. And I can tell you, having been involved in athletics for over 40 years at a pretty high level, it's a little bit creative. I can remember one situation where we needed to replace 40 football helmets. They came out with a new way of detecting, you know, so we needed to replace 40 football helmets. Well, that's a lot of money. It's $100 at that time, $100 a helmet. And you budgeted for maybe 20. So now where's the rest of the money come from? We have to cut back on how much tape we buy this year and so forth, and we work it out.
Well, but
you can do it.
It's the whole scope that eliminating the rest of the fields and have Huddersfield be the full sports complex. That will eliminate a lot of maintenance.
Anytime you can consolidate,
you say one on one hand and put it together, fine.
I think anytime you can
consolidate. We have to find ways to save money, different area, so we put the money into the sports complex that we've been trying to create. We can't just have this and that, it's not gonna work. Don't have the money.
Well, again, I believe you can have this and that if you create it. And that's why I think it can be done. Thank you.
So the drawing.
Mike Jones, Supervisor, Upper Township Public Works. That's what I'll start off with first, ladies and gentlemen. I'll go to the next one after this. Put me on a timer, so I'm here for 5 minutes, and that's it. 2012, we started building the baseball fields. I dealt with Mr. Terry, I dealt with Mr. Halborn, I dealt with Mr. Fumo. In 2012, we built the baseball complex. Softball did not want to come to Mansfield unless they had lights. You're not going to get softball to come to Mansfield, period, unless you force them. So here's the solution to the whole problem. Let's finish in Mansfield, take the 2 other remaining fields, make them all baseball fields. That'll give them 4 flex fields, a T-ball field, and a Babe Ruth field. Put lights on 2 of them. Go to girls softball, Summers Avenue. They have 3 fields, put lights on the 1 field. Shut down all the other baseball complexes in Upper Township. Okay? And then we're done. We got to go to 2 places.
Okay.
Is that fine? Okay?
All right, Michael, you're on the subcommittee. You're on the subcommittee.
I'm just saying, now we're down to 2 facilities. Let's finish spending the money for the lights. I pay taxes too. It is what it is. Gas goes up, milk goes up, rent goes up. It's all about the kids. Regardless, I'm not going to beat the dead horse with the light issue. But I'm involved in lacrosse. I'm not involved in baseball, but Eddie will tell you, I play baseball with him. I'm a baseball guy, my kids changed me. I ended up with lacrosse, or they'd still be playing baseball. I'm not in the same boat as they are with lacrosse. But let's finish the project, let's get it done. It's not going to cost us anything, Mr. Coggins, for the demolition of Cobble Park. It'll be done in-house.
But there's man-hours associated, so there is a cost.
There is a cost, but their guys get paid every day to come to work.
Correct.
So if that's the project again, we'll use in-house services to demolish Cobble Park. We don't have to hire outside contractors to do that. We can save money that way. Us building the baseball fields, we saved a lot of money. That's just my opinion. And I think that's what we need to look at, that's what we need to do, and get it done. Now, as far as the $50,000 Mr. Young is asking for, I'm having a hard time understanding this. Who's going to pay for the $50,000? It's going to come out of the bond. If we buy a truck for $75,000, we're going to replace it, and I'm going to throw a ballpark, we're going to replace it in 15 years. That truck now in 15 years is going to cost $125,000. Mr. Young is asking for $50,000 one time. Is that a correct analysis?
Under my way of looking. Well, if we're talking about capital, we're talking about replacement capital for necessary equipment to carry on a public works function versus new capital to put up a new field where we do have 2 existing fields. Now, the thing that we need to do in terms of forming a subcommittee is to find out what those costs are. Find out what the man-hours are associated with the demolition of those fields. Find out what the actual cost is of having them reseeded. Find out what the cost is of putting the new backstops up at Amanda's Field we're going to need for these other fields. Roll all those costs together. Let's get a real picture as to what it is going to cost the taxpayers. It's very easy to say we're going to throw another $50,000 at the lights. We get everybody very emotional about the kids. Listen, we all get it. Let's figure out how we're going to fund it, what the real cost to the taxpayers is going to be, and how we pay for it. How do we offset that cost?
I do know the fields at Amanda's, there's backstops, or not backstops, there's back cases that need, or not back cases, dugouts that need to be finished. We already decided what we're doing with the roofs, and there's a little bit of odds ends that need to be done, and they're done. Paul has the figures on what one of those field costs because it wasn't that long ago we ordered it. So he can probably throw you tomorrow the number that it's going to cost to finish 2 more fields. And the T-ball field, the backstop is coming from the backstop that was taken down Tuckahoe Road Field, correct? Pieces and parts, it's not going to cost us anything.
Okay.
But my point is, let's move ahead, let's finish this, let's get it done. Just the cost of manpower moving from Beasley's Point to Cobble Park to Amanda's Field to Summers Avenue every day is now going to be eliminated.
I'm not sure I follow that. Explain that.
Well, you go to elementary school to do the baseball fields and get them ready because they need them for practice. Then he leaves there and he goes to Caldwell Park and he does those baseball fields.
Okay.
Then he leaves Caldwell Park and he goes to Summers Avenue and does the softball fields.
All right, so we're going to be shutting down the baseball fields at the school in Beasley's Point?
Hopefully, I don't see, this is what we have to do.
Right, these are the kind of answers we're looking for. This is exactly what we're looking for. So in other words, what you're saying is, we can shut down this field to do this. These are examples of cost savings, and that's the type of thing that we need to put together, so we understand.
I'm saying, if you tell baseball that they have 4 fields to use in a Babe Ruth field, they got lights on 2 of those fields. They are the fields they're going to use for their complex. I'm sure they're going to make it work, because they'll have a complex to themselves. So we're going to have some give and take here. So if we do that and get back to, he leaves Caldwell Park, he goes to Summers Avenue, leaves Summers Avenue, goes to Tuckahoe by the shop, does those 2 fields, leaves there and goes to Amanda's. And that's every day, 5 days a week from April to June.
Well, see, that's the start of a good plan, Mike. That's the kind of thing we need to see on paper. What we need to see is where we're going to realize the cost savings, what we can eliminate as we do this, and what it's going to cost us to finish fixing the dugouts, finish putting the backstop up, what we're saving by using current parts that we have as opposed to buying new fences.
But I think we can get together and we can save a lot of money if it's, being done in-house is saving us a whole lot of money. And working with baseball and the pieces and parts of the fencing that we have that we've already used, I think we can do this.
Let's get that number down on paper. That's what we need to see.
The problem is you can't have a hard number when it comes to recreation. It's driven by how many kids you're going to have play yearly. It changes yearly. We can't say, well, we've got 30 more kids, we're going to go to baseball field next week to have them ready. So we have to have the facilities on hand. We might wind up with 2 additional fields for practices elsewhere. It's driven by the population of the kids. And you're asking for numbers that I don't think we can supply you with, that you're going to hold with a hard number.
Well, no, you've actually supplied us with some good numbers. You show that we have fewer kids. That's been confirmed. We have a real good idea now, after what John had to say, in terms of how many fields that we need. So that's been confirmed.
But again, they can't.
Mike has given us some ideas about, if we go ahead and do this, we can shut down the baseball field. So
we hope that we can, but again, there's a chance that it doesn't happen.
Well,
so I'm saying, you're asking me to put numbers up here that I can't verify because it changes yearly.
Well, this is why we need a committee. I mean, hope's not a strategy. We need to not hope. We need to come up with some hard.
I think we can put some numbers together.
We can't consolidate fields until we get this one finished.
Well, that's why I'm saying, let's get it done, is what I'm saying. Let's get this field finished. Let's make that the hub of Upper Township. That's where everybody goes now. I'll put on my next hat, President of Upper Township Lacrosse.
All we need is numbers.
I got 240 boys and girls. I need grass to play on. I'm not in the same situation that they are. I don't need what they need. I need a patch of grass. So it's a whole lot different for me to stand here than it is for baseball, because I don't need what baseball needs. So, the lacrosse has hurt baseball, don't get me wrong, it's hurt softball also, but I didn't start it, I just got thrown to it. So it is what it is, and we just need to move forward and get this done, and then get rid of the rest. And the cost savings may be 5 years down the road. It's not going to be next year. It's not going to be in 2 years. You'll notice this cost saving 3, 4, 5 years from now.
Well, in God we trust. All of this bring data.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Joe Fury from Strathmere. I just want to put everyone at ease. I'm not going to ask for a baseball field in Strathmere. We have a huge baseball field. I just want to make a couple points. I have 2 boys, 12 and 9, that play a lot of sports. Every sport that's available in Upper Township. We're very blessed. But if you use some peripheral vision, let's not forget about the business association. They pay taxes too. And I think Amanda's Field is a wonderful complex, but I think it's not developed, and when it becomes developed, it's going to be a tremendous asset in the township. We have to support the businesses. If we don't support those businesses, they're not going to be able to pay the taxes, which it's a cyclical situation. I wish I had stock in Dino's Diner, because we must stop there a couple nights a week coming back from our events. And the more people we attract here, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, other teams that come in and play, the more people we're going to introduce to Upper Township and to the Business Association. And I think it's going to make it a better area for everybody. So just a brief comment to have a little more peripheral vision, and other than just how are we going to pay for this, we can figure out a way. We can support each other, and I'd be happy to be on the committee.
That'd be terrific.
And support it. So thank you.
Thanks.
Subcommittee's up to 3. Keep it going. Yes, sir.
My name is Robert Brown, I'm from Dennis Township, 45 Cedar Drive. Good evening, Mayor and Committee. I'm not here about baseball. About a week and a half ago or so, I came down and was inquisitive about a vendor's license, and kind of got read the rules of what it was, and after going home and trying to decipher it, it made anything I was trying to do in vain. And I guess what I'm asking is, is the ordinance, is that amendable? Is there exceptions to the rule?
And what is it that you're looking to do?
Hot dog vending cart.
And where are you looking to do that?
Neptune and Williams, right where the lifeguard stand would be, or lifeguard headquarters in Stratford.
Are you a veteran?
Yes.
Well, I will say that in the past, we haven't had any merchant licenses like that. But I do know that...
We have an ordinance on it, and I haven't looked at it in some time, but I know there's some state exceptions for veterans.
Yeah, that's what...
Did you talk to code enforcement about your veteran status?
I didn't get involved in all that, no, I didn't.
All right, because you may want to call Shelley and explain to her that you're a veteran, and I believe you might be able to under that state statute. That's an exception to our restrictions. Well, I think we prohibit it, frankly, under our ordinance, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, at one time it was veterans and firemen.
Yes, and I think it's a state, I don't know if it's firemen, but I know it's veteran.
That's why I asked if you're a veteran, because it does allow for some waiver or exceptions to the not only our ordinance, but the statute actually gives you a little bit more flexibility because of that.
I know one time you had to move, you couldn't be in one spot every day. You would have to move.
I have to look at the regulations.
Kind of told me it was kind of a moving ordinance where you had to keep moving and nothing on the beach block, and it defeated my purpose because I wanted to put a convenience there for, there's really nothing there in Stratford. You know, people want to bottle of water or soda or whatever. It's neat. You know, kind of make it convenient, especially for the residents in that area as well.
But I'll tell you what, we'll let Dan do some research on that, and if you want, I would say we'll work with, if you wouldn't mind working with the clerk, we'll make sure that we communicate those answers back and forth to you. Let us do a little research on it, and then maybe we can come up with an answer for you.
What he suggested may be beyond the veteran's preference, and that in all likelihood will require an ordinance amendment. The Township Committee probably needs to be educated on what the ordinance is and then what the issues are, and then you would make a decision as to whether or not you want to allow that type of thing, because if you allow it, it's not just for this gentleman, it's for anybody else, and how many licenses, and are we going to now be selling food and that type of stuff on the beach in Strathmere. And you may want some folks in Strathmere who live there and own property and get some input, because it would maybe change the character of their summer.
And I know it had to be the veteran operating the car. You couldn't have an employee come in or anybody else do it for you.
Right, that's the basis of what North Wildwood does for their ice cream vendors that walk the beach. They're all veterans, and they pay a fee, a yearly fee for the summer to have the option to do that. So
well, that's understandable. I understand all that. I have researched a little bit in Cape May and Wildwood and Sea Isle as well.
Well, some of the proceeds go towards veterans.
Excuse me?
With some of the proceeds go towards the...
I'm sorry, I'm a disabled vet and I'm having a hard time hearing it.
Well, some of the profits go towards the veterans.
Would some of it go towards veterans?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
It's a great idea.
Okay, so communicate with...
Yeah, give us, I would say, today's Monday, so, give us probably to the, toward the latter part of the week, we can start communicating with Barbara, and she'll get your information, and we'll work it that way. That way, she can correspond with me and Dan, and we'll, and then we'll bring it to the full committee. Okay?
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes?
Melissa Blackledge, 551 Park Avenue, Aurora. Not that we haven't heard enough about lights. I think everybody's probably in the dark a little bit. I'm just going to bring up one thing. At Amanda's Field, the township about 2 years ago paid to have a light put in to illuminate the flag. I don't know if most of you know, I've been in the Air Force for 14 years now. I'm a tech sergeant, so it's something that I take seriously. It is a federal law. The United States Flag Code Title 4 says that if the flag is displayed 24 hours a day, it needs to be illuminated at night. So if the light doesn't get illuminated, it needs to be retreated at the end of the day. Mike Jones, the light has been put in. The only thing that needs to be done, and it costs us $600 to put the light in. The only thing that needs to be done is a phone call needs to be made to Atlantic State Electric to come and hook them up, and that's it. No additional cost. We don't have to pay Atlantic State Electric other than the electric bill itself. I would just ask that if Mr. Young, I guess.
Sounds like a plan.
I'm sorry. If you could please look into that.
How about it'll be lit before the next township committee meeting, all right?
So as we close the parks every night, it's a little something that I just noticed.
Okay.
And one more thing, and I know you already voted on it unanimously, no. The kill reader thing you talked about before with the light, I don't know that person, so I have no affiliation with them. Have you driven down there at night? You don't think that it's... I do see where the person is coming from. It is very dark, and we have calls down there.
Like every other township street in that same situation, if you applied that rule to every street, we would be putting street lights, we would have much more than 700 street lights, we'd be putting in thousands of street lights. So it wouldn't be alone. So you have to create a standard at some point.
But to your request about lighting the flag, absolutely, we'll take care of it.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else?
My name is Doug Pearson. I just want to introduce myself as the station commander of Woodline. And let you know that I'm really looking forward to continuing the great working relationship that we have. If there's anything you need, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I did bring some statistical data. I don't know if you're interested to look at it now or I can just drop it off.
If you want to summarize it,
sure.
please.
I can give you a copy of it. I'd love to give you a copy of it.
And by the way, welcome. We've actually had an opportunity to meet and sit down, Doug and I and Ed, and we look forward to working with you because in the past there's been a lot of change in your particular role, and we're happy that you're here for quite a while, hopefully.
Thank you. Briefly, this one here is just statistics from February. Total Woodbine Station handled 1,887 calls or contacts. For Upper Township, it was 866, so you see we're doing a lot of work out here. I broke it down with just the majority of things. Motor vehicle stops, you see we made 493 stops. Property checks, over 200. You see the number of alarms on there. Then I broke down the accidents. It looked like there was 22 in Upper Township for the month of February. It gives you the various roads that they were on, so they don't seem to be confined to any main roadway. Highlighted the top investigations that we handled, DWIs, and significant events. I did speak with the resident from Chestnut Avenue. She was, in my understanding, she was in last committee meeting expressing concern, so I met with her Friday. We had a great conversation, so hopefully she's a little more at ease.
Thank you. I appreciate you following up on that.
Sure. And then lastly, the Mayor, we had the conversation about the person on Corson Tavern Road with the speed.
Right.
So we had the speed measuring device put up there. I don't know if anybody saw it out there, but it captured data for the whole week. And believe it or it or not, there's over 37,000 cars travel that roadway. That's the document that's in color there. It has a breakdown by hour, by day, by speed. So take the time to cruise that. If you have any question, it shows the maximum speeds, the amount of cars that were going, whatever speed they were going by, the breakdown of hour by day. So you can actually see what were the hours a day where people are speeding. The great thing about that sign is it's so high-tech, it doesn't go off unless you're speeding. So if anybody drove by and didn't think it was working, it only goes off when you speed by, but it captures the speed of every car that goes by. So you'll see the breakdown day by day, the times and the speed.
So 16 cars were going over 71 miles, is that what I'm reading on this graph?
Yes. And you'll see the breakdown by day.
This is incredible. I mean, there are an amazing amount of drivers that are breaking every speed limit under the sun.
Some of those, I'll admit, some of them could be troopers responding to calls. I don't have a breakdown of that. Obviously, if there's an emergency or a serious accident, I'm going to have that happen. So that could account for a small percentage of them. But you'll see, for the most part, look at this graph here, the second page, it really shows that most of the people that travel are going at the posted speed limit. Obviously, there are more. And as you get into it, you'll see the breakdown by day, the amount of cars by hour. So it's a lot of information there. Take some time to go over that. And again, if you ever have any questions, areas of concern, I'm happy to get that set up again for you.
And from a traffic regulation standpoint, the county can't change the speed limit unless the 85th percentile speed. That's what they look at. So if the 85th percentile speed is above the posted speed limit, they won't change the speed limit.
I think it's 50 out there.
Well, that's good data, and we appreciate, and again, welcome. And I know that you and I talked about a request to field some equipment for the state troopers, and we're going to have a discussion as a side. It won't be funded from the township, but we'll find out some way to help you, get some of the things that you think would increase, your opportunity to take care of the different residents, not only in Rockville, but maybe we can work something out with Dennis and Woodlawn as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Now's the time. Now's the hour. Well, I think everybody, we had some real, I would say, lively discussion this evening. So, and I appreciate all those that addressed the Township Committee this evening. Your input is greatly appreciated and will certainly be taken under consideration. It's important that we hear, from the residents, and, we don't always have the luxury of having this type of turnout. So thank you for attending this evening. I'd like to wish you all a great week on behalf of the Township Committee, and thank you again for your input. So with that, I'll close the public portion and entertain a motion to go into closed session, and I'll call on Mr. Coggins to read the statement.
I hereby move that a resolution be incorporated in the minutes authorizing the executive session for the following matters pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act.
Guys, can we keep it down?
Negotiations of the Burger Act, South Jersey LLC, Taxman Maintenance, Norman Bridge Special Loan Council, Shared Services Agreement for Municipal Court, and the fireworks contract. Potential litigation within gift, safety and security issues, personnel issues. I also included in my motion the estimated time and circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session will be disclosed to the public as follows. It is anticipated that the matters discussed in closed session may be disclosed to the public upon the determination of the Township Committee that the public interest will no longer be served by such confidentiality. With respect to employment and personnel matters, such discussions will be made public if and when formal action is taken, or when the individuals involved consent to be made public. With respect to contract negotiations, such matters will be made public when negotiations have ceased, and there is no longer a reason for confidentiality. With respect to litigation matters, such discussions will be made public when litigation is complete, and the applicable appeal period has expired.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins? Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Yeah, take a quick break for bathroom.